What is up, everybody? We are back with a new monthly show. Philip Lietz, Eddie Soto, and Ron St Pierre. So, what is up, guys?
Did I say you need a name for this? You need a name for this.
I know we got to figure that out.
Thing.
We got to figure that out.
I had a few names for it, but none of them that I can say.
I think
well, you could say them. Don't know how much people.
Now you're kind of obligated to say them.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I don't know.
I forgot.
Four grumpy fucks.
Yeah, that. Four grumpy fucks.
I don't know. Well, that doesn't really qualify. Phil doesn't. Phil's kind of the odd man out. It's more like three grumpy fucks than Phil.
Yeah, that's true.
That actually sounds pretty good.
Phil lets in the three grumps.
Yeah.
all that positivity he brings.
Yeah.
It's youthful ignorance is what it is.
I really hate to see Phil mad.
Oh no, it's not that pretty.
Yeah, like you do all this jujitsu and all this stuff, this training. You ever get to like a point where you're messing around with somebody and they just piss you off and you just go like all in?
Oh yeah, sure. But I must admit, I'm not proud when that happens. Like I'm like when I get mad, and I mean like, look, I mean there's me irritated, which is like when some stupid Euro won't eat or something like that. It's like, oh, you little fucker, God, that's just irritation. But then like when I get pissed off, like it's very short, because like there's the moment when I'm mad, and then there's like that instant where I'm like, I should not be this at all. I'm an asshole. I need to stop. You know what I mean? I like, it's very anticlimactic and just not for all of the training and all of the, all of that. It's just, I'm not that interesting when I'm pissed off,
So Andrew, my oldest son plays lacrosse, and he plays in a men's league here, which is pretty much a beer league. It's just a bunch of guys that get together that most of them went to college and played and blah, blah, blah.
That's awesome.
So last year we were here in Orlando, and they were playing the Orlando Geckos, and the whole game I watched Andrew kind of mix it up with one of their defensive guys. And at the end of the game, right at the end, I see Andrew, and I could tell by I know his body posture. And when he was in high school, I would walk the sideline. Wherever he was, I was. So this way I could yell to him. And when he heard my voice, he would say, hey, that usually calms me down to hear dad say, hey, level head, stop, pay attention, So I see him go running after this kid, and the kid turns around, and I see Andrew go all in on a step back and come in with a headbutt. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Now they have helmets on. Yeah. So the refs, they blow the whistle, the game's over, and Andrew comes running over, and he puts his hand on my shoulder, and his head goes down, and he's like, good God, I am so glad that the game is over because I can't see. And I'm like, what the hell you mean you can't see? He goes, Dad, is that you? And I'm like, are you okay? He's like, I don't know. He's like, it hurts so bad. He takes his helmet off. His whole forehead is like beet red. I'm like,
oh no.
Nobody wins with a headbutt.
No.
Not even with a helmet on.
Yeah.
But I mean, he committed to it, and he'll tell you, it's like, and he's had a couple concussions, so he knows better. But
that shit will catch up with you if you're not careful, man. I mean, I'm sure. So I'm 34, and I know that that's not old by any means, but I mean, things I did when I was 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 in competition, I feel them now, right now. And it's like there's a picture going around, well, not going around, but it how like Facebook will come up with your memories and shit like that. Yeah. There was one of me at a tournament back when I was a brown belt, and I in the match, this dude popped my foot in a straight ankle lock, like the foot popped. So it is either like a tendinal, some kind of ligament issue, or it was a break of some kind. And I didn't even care. My coach, she was pregnant with her second kid and was, or maybe it was her first kid. I can't remember, but she was pregnant with one of her kids, is taping my foot mid match, in between the matches. And I'm late. And I had that was match 6 of 11 that day, Ooh. And I went and did more, and my foot does not feel good now. So, I would tell your son to don't do that crap, because it's going to hurt a lot.
Never going to happen.
I know. You could
never going to happen.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Tell him I said it. Be like, hey, this guy feels.
Other coaches have told him, you have to stop doing this. He's like, stop doing what? And they're like, you can't do that. And he's like, why not? Doesn't bother me now. And they're like, a year, 3-5 years from now, when you're sitting on the couch and you like fly off the couch and hit the floor and go, oh my God, what was that? Just remember today.
Yeah. It's bad news, dude.
Yeah. He took a 100-mile-an-hour shot off the back of his head when he was up in Salisbury and was out for probably a month with a concussion protocol. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, man.
Yep. Yeah. He called me that night. He was like, Dad, what's the matter? My hood. I'm like, what's wrong with your head? He's like, I got hit in the head. I'm like, dude, are you okay? Oh no. I see the trainer. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then we talked to the trainer. Trainer's like, yeah, he was out of it. Like,
that's crazy. No
idea where he was, how he got there. You know, was it time to start practice? You know, when's the next game? You know,
oh man, that is remarkable.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. So, but so now he's had a couple of them, and it's like, you know, all those years of Little League that we don't think he had any issues. They do catch up fast.
Oh no, they do. But look, hey, I would any day of the week, like I would rather step into a cage with a trained animal who's trying to kill me than get bit by like a big monitor lizard. You know what I mean? Like I don't have the balls for that kind of injury,
or have like claws ripping into you while somebody's taking a picture of you, right, Ryan?
Yeah, no, I can't. I don't have it. I don't have.
It's honestly not as bad as. I mean, most of the time, it's fairly negligible.
Oh yeah, listen to him. It's not that bad.
It's just those one or two few things. You know, I had my calf crushed by a tegu. That was fun.
Really?
Like legit fucking crushed so bad that I drug it. I had to drag my fucking leg. Yeah, it was bad.
Oh my! Wait a minute. Can you tell? Can I?
It was back when I had 250 adults. I had a shit ton of, and a lot of them were these giant ones that were from Paraguay. These big black and white things. They were like 22 pounds.
Right.
And I used to keep them in very large enclosures with a full sheet of plywood that they would burrow underneath.
Okay.
And I was out there feeding them. One of them they used to come flying out, but I would have to go inside the enclosures to make sure that they all got food in these cages.
Okay.
Because otherwise you'd have, one or two, bogart everything and nothing.
Yeah.
So I was in there and they normally weren't a problem. And this huge male, man, I never even saw it coming. I felt the bite and I was just like, oh my God, it grabbed me by the calf.
Oh my God.
And then it started shaking and it fucked me up good. I mean, it put me off my feet for about a week.
Wow.
Jesus, it was in like 2003 or something. Yeah, I mean, it happens with that big stuff. I lost half of my left nipple is missing. It got ripped off and eaten by a huge rhinoceros iguana when I was 17. In front of my mom. Fucking blood squirting all over the place.
Oh.
Yeah, it was big, and I've always been a little on the fat side. Fuck you guys. So I was wrestling, trying to. It was a huge wild caught one that I caught in Miami, and they thrashed back and forth. I was trying to move it from one enclosure to the other, and so my method was I'd have the neck and then I'd tuck the back legs underneath my armpit so I could restrain it.
Mm-hmm.
In the process of shaking, it got a little too close to my chest. It bit down like this.
Oh!
It hurt so bad that I fucking stupidly let go, and then it kind of did a small crocodile roll off. Took the top half of it with it. Took the top half of my nipple with it. Fucking hit the ground. There's blood all over my shirt and fucking.
Oh my God.
That was one of the few times I've actually gone to the hospital. So my mom took me to the fucking hospital to get stitches, and the doctor's like, "What happened to you?" And I'm like, "I got bit by a fucking lizard." The dude's like, "Sure you did." They thought I was in like some kind of gang fight. I don't know what the fuck they thought, that I got stabbed with a knife, but they I was like, I'll bring it in and show it to you. It's a big fucking lizard, but they stitched it up, and to this day I have a
a
scar. Yeah.
Poor guy.
Occupational hazard.
Yeah.
That's remarkable, man. That's
There's nothing remarkable about it. Fucking stupidity.
Sorry about the coughing, guys. I'm still getting over the Rona, and the thing that it is there's like a lingering cough, and I feel fine. And in fact, my smell and taste started coming back today, but
that's good.
It's just it's still there, so it's like I still just so I'm trying not to, but just if I cough, forgive me, just edit it out or something.
Cough away, man.
Yeah,
this will be a time capsule of
we'll
look back on this in a couple of years and go, hey, remember when that fucking shit was going around and fucking everything up and the world was in apocalypse mode?
Yeah, by then it'll be like Corona Alpha or Corona Zeta or something crazy.
Or we'll all be dead.
Or exactly.
That's possible too.
So Eddie, what body part are you missing?
Nothing.
He's got everything. Good. He's like, I got it all.
I'm extremely pain tolerant. However, I do my best to not get bitten by anything, because when it comes to actual bites, I'm a sissy when it actually comes to bites. So I do my best. So
that's
very lucky.
Disappointing.
I've had some boas. Like when we moved out of the Kissimmee house and moved here into our house now, we had the tortoise, brought the big tortoise outside, and the neighbors, they had like 5 or 6 kids. So they were like, oh, the tortoise. So I told my son, go on in and get one of the boas out, So he's like, oh, okay. He comes out with the worst one. I'm like, he's got the snake by the tail and on a hook. I'm like, out of the 8 snakes that we have, you picked that asshole. I'm like, that snake is 100% going to bite me. So I've got it in my hand, and she's being really good. I got her like this, so her head's back here. The kids are touching her tail. And all of a sudden, I feel her move towards my back. And as I look, I see her head here, and she comes right around, whack, right on the back of my arm. And I'm like, and all the kids are like, their hands go up. They're like, whoa. And I'm like, oh, it's fine, guys. She just gave me a little kiss. And they're like, you're bleeding. I had blood running down my arm. I'm like, oh,
that's awesome.
You guys are knuckleheads.
That's awesome.
But no, it sucks.
When I was between the ages of like 17 and 21, I would periodically work at a reptile shop here in Colorado called Reptilian Haven. It was the first reptile store in Colorado, as far as I know anyway. And there was one time when we had a retic that it was like a tiger retic in the shop, and it was super chill. And I was just some dumbass, and I was like, it was like the store was dead and no one was around, and it was like, an hour before closing. I was like, I'm gonna go hold that big retic, and because the thing was just mellow as all get out. And I opened up the cage. It was in a big vision. And I opened the cage up and just reached in and like picked it up, it was coiled up on its water bowl. And I picked it up, and the thing, I just startled it, and it turned around and bit my hand, like right here. It was just a bite and release, just bit and let go.
Ooh.
And it was just like, just gushing blood. I mean, it was its head, about that long. So it wasn't a huge retic, but it was
big enough.
It was a retic, man, and in retrospect, I'm grateful nothing else happened, but it was like, that was the one and only time I've been bitten by a large snake. And after that, I was like, okay, I'm never going to own a big constrictor. It's just not for me, personally anyway. And then I just want to add one other thing is I watched a friend of mine, a coworker of mine, his name's Bill. He was feeding the Argus monitors. We had a pair of Argus, and it was, he was literally, I think Ron knows where this is going.
I know where this is going.
He was winging rats or I think they were just dead adult mice. He was just winging them into the cage. And the monitor, we fed him like once a week or something. I don't even remember. It was like woofing him down. And he goes to throw one in, and the monitor just goes right past the rodent and hits his hand. And it just, it didn't even look like anything happened. It just literally just bit him kind of on the fat of the thumb. And he had to go get stitches, because it just was just, I mean, obviously you guys know,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was remarkable. I've never I mean, it is not a big monitor, man. I mean, it wasn't a big, big relatively speaking. I mean, from my eyes at the time, it was one of the biggest monitors I'd ever seen, because I still had never seen any kind of black throat or anything in person, I'd never seen a full grown Savannah, and I never saw a full grown Tegu yet until later, because I was still just a kid. And I mean, this was almost 20 years ago, and it was nuts, man. I just was like completely floored. He got all pale, and we were like, dude, you got to go to the hospital. And he's like, no. He tried to like tough it out, and eventually just went to the damn hospital. It was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, Argus are one of the most people don't really, well, I mean, anybody that's kept them knows it, but they're one of the most aggressive. I used to breed those. I had quite a few. There was a time where I had a big enclosure full of them.
Okay.
And I think we had like 6 adults in there, but they had dug all these holes in the substrate. But man, when you would open that door and they knew there was food,
dude, they hit.
Oof.
Yeah, they're a different animal.
Open, throw it in, and then slam the door back, and then they would all just destroy it. They were. I got rid of them because I got tired of dealing with that. But they're awesome lizards. But my God, I don't think I've ever worked with anything else they're a little more food aggressive than tegus, which
crazy.
Tegus are pretty damn food aggressive.
So I bought 4 6-foot Neodesh cages from Dick Gergen. Ron, you know who Dick is?
Yeah, I remember him.
So I lived about 30 to 40 minutes from his house. Now, if anybody knows the story about Dick had people come over to buy animals. They beat him real bad and they robbed him.
Yep.
So he is
shit.
Yeah, he is like, you will not come to my house. He lived in Alden. I lived in Akron. We're 20, 30 minutes apart. And I told him, hey, I'll come pick the cages up. He's like, nope. All the rumors, bars on his windows, he's very, very careful. Great guy.
That's crazy.
Like brought the cages. It was snowing out. We stood outside. I invited him in. He's like, nope, I don't go in anybody's house. You're not coming to we'll stand out here. If you're good. We stood outside and talked. Great guy.
Fair.
But I had a pair of Flavy Argus crosses.
Yep.
And dude, they were in separate cages, and I opened the door up one day and the male come out and he chased me around my bedroom. Jumped up on my bed. He jumped up behind me. I ran off the bed, out the door. He followed me out. They said this lizard was on 2 feet, just coming with his mouth open, and I was like, dude, like that's nuts.
That's crazy. I mean,
I've only had good experiences with Argus.
Yeah.
So
listen, they were great. As long as if you didn't have food, they were really good. You could open the door up, but dude, if they could smell the food, and I actually had my blue tegus from Ron right across from them. And then I had a pair of black and whites down below, and I was feeding, and what I should have done was fed them first. Instead, I fed everybody else and fed them last. And I think just the smell and all the activity, they just went off the deep end. So
well, and there's like that old, well, not old, but like I've heard it a bunch. I don't know, maybe you guys can tell me if you've heard something different, but I hear that, the story I heard is like, there's usually like a progression with which people get into reptiles. And it's like, at some point, everybody gets interested in like really big stuff. At some point, everybody gets interested in rare stuff. At some point, everybody gets interested in venomous stuff or whatever. And for some reason, I don't know why, I never had the interest in, like, as much as I love venomous, it's just never been on my radar, like, I'm just like, I can't, I don't know why that is. It's just not, I got nothing against it. Right. Obviously it's just, there was a list of things that, like, for one reason or another, just never crossed my mind to keep. And that damn Argus that bit my friend's hand, I was like, no, I'm not here for it.
Well, Phil, now we know why you own a cat.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yes. 2, in fact.
Dude, I have a cat, so don't worry.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. As long as we're on the same page in some regard.
It's his baby.
It came with the house.
Did it really?
We moved into this house and somebody had abandoned it here, so we ended up feeding it. And now
Hey, cats now are
it's
great.
Now it's a lawn panther.
Yep.
But
keeps the riffraff out.
I heard old Eddie over there has something going on with a bunch of like little frogs or something. I don't know what he's
doing. Yeah, what's going on with that, Eddie? I'm not gonna lie, the pictures of those, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I started off with 9 and then ended up with
tell us what kind of frogs did you have, Edward?
These are the White's tree frogs, or the dumpy tree frogs.
Okay,
cool.
So I started off with 9 as a test, just to see how they would, do outside and breed and eventually what people would want as far as buying. And I bought them all in October, less than a year. They bred. I had probably over 1,000 tadpoles.
Holy crap.
Jesus.
Yeah. It was crazy. The person that I got them for has never even had as many babies that I have had.
Wow.
So obviously it was more than just, I mean, it's possible, but I'm more than likely sure that it was more than one female that had, deposited all those eggs. But but the good thing is I sold pretty much 95% of what I produced.
Wow.
A month later, they laid a second batch, probably a couple hundred. I sold pretty much all of those, and I held back specific ones. So I had some adults that were low expression snowflake.
Cool.
So I held back the higher ends, and then obviously what you saw the cages yesterday. So that cheap cage I had them in was a huge eyesore, but I didn't want to put any money into it until I could guarantee that it would be a success.
Yeah.
So, and as you can see, it was. So
yeah,
that's great.
So I built them a giant palace.
Nice.
So and now I'm on a hunt for all the morphs, and hopefully I can get those guys rotating. And
that's awesome.
Are there actually morphs? Are there actually morphs in the whites?
Oh yeah.
There's a lot actually. Yeah.
I never really paid any attention.
I've honestly neither have I. But now I am.
Yeah, so, of course.
There's probably around, I would say 5.
Okay.
And there's possibly more, but 5 that I know of that are actually. In fact, there's one that just popped up probably a couple days ago. I showed Ron the other day or today. It was a translucent.
Okay.
Whoa.
That's kind
of spooky. It's kind of spooky looking. Yeah.
It looks like
it looks like a house gecko and a frog together. So it's it's got the translucent body, but the jet black, dead eyes.
Okay.
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. How cool is that?
But it was funny when I first got these frogs in October. The first rainstorm I got, with a rainstorm they go crazy, start breeding, and my neighbors were outside. Yeah, my neighbors were outside, like, what the hell is that noise? Like they went outside to look.
That's awesome, man.
They are loud.
Really?
So picture that, but a dozen of them at the same time. So
wow.
Yeah. So yeah,
that's
been my little project.
That's really, really good. Did anybody complain about the noise, or were they just confused?
No. They were confused. We have a bunch of Cuban tree frogs everywhere.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And at the time we had a swamp behind our house.
Okay.
It was filled with bullfrogs. So you had all of that together. So the neighbors just chopped it off as the frogs from outside.
Yeah. Cool.
Next thing you know, there's an army. There's an army of bullfrogs invading the neighborhood, trying to figure out where Eddie's frogs are.
Well, here's the downside. The city actually demolished that swamp.
Wow.
So the bullfrogs were gone. Like they're gone. Not a trace.
Damn. That sucks.
Yeah.
That's all right though. It's Florida. There's so many tree frogs that they'll mask whatever he's doing. Even when he has 100. Sure. Even when he has 100 fucking adults, and during a rainstorm you can't hear yourself think, and it blows your eardrums out because they're so fucking loud.
That's
really cool. So if anyone needs frogs, find me.
Now, so here's a question, Eddie. So I know Aaron Hanslick from years ago in New York owned Aaron's Frog Farm. and he was breeding the dart frogs, and he always separated out all of his tadpoles. You don't have to separate these tadpoles. Do you just leave them all together the whole time and they just do their thing?
So first, I want to start off by saying I am not an expert at all. This is literally the first time I've ever bred any amphibian, let alone keep an amphibian. Yeah. So that system that you saw in the first picture, all it was a 7-foot Reptibreeze with a utility sink inside.
Okay.
It had a drain and everything, so it never overflowed. The first batch, I let them completely go through their whole transformation, right up until they started growing their front legs. So back legs first, then front legs. Once they got the front legs, I separated them all. And they did great. Then the next batch, I took them out immediately. And then what I noticed is those didn't do that well. They didn't grow as fast. So going forward, I'm going to let them do their thing for quite a while and then intervene once I see them, at a bigger size.
That's cool.
But honestly, cool. Everything's trial and error. So far I'm doing okay. So.
I've always wanted to do red eyes, but I just never pulled the trigger. And I hear from, you hear people say, oh, they're so hard. They're a pain. It's like,
no, they're not.
Really?
Dude,
so
I bred red eyes for a decade. They were super easy.
Cool.
I did the red eyes. I did the red eyes shortly after I got the whites because I'm like, oh, the whites are so easy. Let me do the red eyes. They were easy. They're just a little bit more like I mean, Ron might have a different opinion, but for me, they were a little bit more cooler tolerant.
They are.
Or not colder. So they needed a lot more shade.
Yes.
The Florida ambient temperature was just a little too much for them. So for that reason, I ended up parting ways with them.
Well, basically, dude, I used a 18 by 18 by 36 inch, outdoor cage that I made out of PVC with just a 1/4 inch vinyl coated wire on the front and on the top. So 3 sides PVC, top and front door had 1/4 inch vinyl wire on it. And then I put them under a tree and I put 10 pairs in there. I was constantly cranking them out. So you hang a pothos in the tree with a cat litter pan with some water in the bottom. And every time it rains, they take the leaves, they lay their eggs on the leaves over the water. You just go out and you pluck the leaf off. You tape it to the side of a critter keeper and put it on the floor in your air conditioned house, hanging over water about, that deep. The eggs hatch, the tadpole falls into the water. Once they're all out, take them and dump them into a large outdoor cattle trough that's also in the shade. And then you just collect them as they come out. It's really that simple.
Damn.
See, with my situation, I didn't have a complete shaded area. So I would get the eggs, I'd get the tadpoles, but the tadpoles never thrived. And that was because I believe the water temperature was just too high.
Yeah, it was getting too hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were cooking them.
Yeah.
Boiled tadpoles.
Luckily, I got someone else to take them, so they're good. I may do them later, but right now I'm doing like I said, I'm doing okay with the whites. Lots of crickets. I have a outdoor. It's a separated garage from my house, and inside there's a tool shed, like a separate room inside the garage, and it's scattered with 10-gallon tanks with all my holdbacks. So I have like a whole thing full of frogs, and
that's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's a little much. Yeah. Never did I think that I would be a frog guy, but here we are.
Yep.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I'm like super addicted now. So now I'm like, I gotta have all the morphs. I gotta, it's cool. Gonna be something that's gonna be, it's a little out of control for me now.
Yeah, I mean, the White's tree frog is perfectly suited for where he's at. There's not a better choice. Yeah. So he's gonna kill it.
That's
I have
great.
a feeling I'll be working for him at some point soon.
Nice.
Nice. The Frog King. Yeah. I'll be over there cleaning cages.
That'll be the next show. The Frog King. Right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Eddie, nice shirt, my man. Dragon Ball Z is Dragon Ball. The whole IP is like my jam. I'm waiting.
Oh yeah. No.
Yeah.
So I got this stuff too, and then hold on.
Yeah. Oh yes, dude. Yes. Okay.
So I got more somewhere around here.
Pretty sure that falls under millennial fanboyism right there.
Hell yeah. So let me tell you this, Eddie. I collected Pokemon cards when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
And I now collect Dragon Ball cards, the Dragon Ball Super card game, and I literally have like thousands of dollars of Dragon Ball cards just sitting right over here because I'm that fucking guy. And so when I saw you were when you first started, you were like leaned down just enough, so I only saw the dragon, and I was like, please tell me that's a Dragon Ball shirt. So then when you sat up, I was just like, yes. So anyway.
Nice.
I have a whole box. So just like the Godzilla stuff, I have a separate box full of like the sculptures and the vinyl stuff. Yeah,
man, it all overlaps. I feel like I meet more people through reptiles who are into Dragon Ball, Pokemon, Alien, and then like oddly enough, a lot of jujitsu people. There's like a lot of crossover between jujitsu people and reptiles. So I'm like, this is great. I feel like coming into my own good
I still have my original 150 Pokemon cards in the sleeves.
Wow.
But wait, hold on now. Are you talking like the base set?
Yeah, the very first. Yeah.
You want you should
nope.
sell you should
no.
Phil's like, whoa,
I have an eBay store.
Yeah, I should buy those from you for a little bit of money.
I was gonna suggest you just sell them, not to me. I was just gonna say sell them, make money, man. Like expand your White's Tree Frog project.
There you go.
If I ever do that, I would instantly regret it. So yeah, not gonna do that. And I haven't really looked at them, but I know behind the sleeves, I know I have extras behind certain ones too. I have. The only downside is my Charizard is not first edition.
Unbelievable,
but that's okay. Okay.
It literally doesn't matter.
We just lost half of the viewers at this point.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
It's like, oh my god,
they're gone.
We can never follow this guy again.
Sorry. Like I'll derail the conversation all the time.
No.
I have them somewhere. They're down there, and
that's killer.
I'm a huge nerd for all that stuff. Dragon Ball, Pokemon. For me, obviously, it was the first generation, so I played.
Sure.
I played. Was it Pokemon Blue?
Yeah, me too. Red, blue, and yellow. Yeah.
Yellow, I stopped. I did gold, and then after gold, I stopped because then there's like too many. And
that's my beef.
They're not even trying anymore. Like they're not. Like look and like there's a Pokemon that looks like a set of keys, and I'm like, no, that's weird,
bro. Yeah. Here's how I'm gonna tie it all back in, because I'm telling you that half the reason I got into reptiles, like half of it was because like they're basically, it's like a Pokemon. Like you could literally get a damn Pokemon and have it for fucking real, you know? Yep. Like and Pokemon for me, like I had the same beef, Eddie. It's like as soon as it got to the point where it was a million of them and they were like you said, like a kitchen, like a cup Pokemon, like literally a cup. I'm like, fuck that. This is none of my, I just want them to be like animals, like real animals.
Yep.
And then by that time I'd gotten bearded dragons, so I didn't care anymore, you know.
And
oh no, I didn't. The girlfriend didn't come for a long time. Let me reiterate, I was into Pokemon. The girlfriend did not come for a long time.
Did you say Pokemon? Pokemon.
Oh man,
Pokemon.
Well, here's the thing. So I got lucky. So my wife was into Dragon Ball.
Oh.
She was into Pokemon. So Godzilla, not so much. But I hit the jackpot.
Well, that's why I'm with the lady I'm with now. She loves reptiles and all. She's into jujitsu too, so she does it all. So it's just like, oh, you're perfect, cool.
Just admit it. You're afraid.
Yeah.
You're afraid. She's into jujitsu. One day, Philip's gonna get eyes, have a black eye.
Never gonna happen. Never gonna happen.
Yeah, don't never say never, buddy.
Oh no.
I still swear that the reason I have a bulging disc in my back is because my wife kicked my ass in my sleep, and she just won't admit it. I wake up one morning, I can't stand up straight. I'm asking her, "Did you hit me?" No. I don't know what you're talking about.
Bill's over there dying.
Yeah.
Waiting for a lung to come out.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, it's thankfully none of the animals catch COVID. Thank God.
Yeah, right.
Because I've been coughing all over them.
Yeah, that sucks.
Going to the shop, cleaning up shit and coughing all over everybody. Poor bastards.
Did you continue to clean and check up on everything every single day?
Except for 2 days. Yeah. So the two very worst days, my mother, who is a damn saint, went over there and took care of everything. And I pare it down. So my mother, other than me, has collected more Euromastix eggs than anyone else in this country. I'm telling you, like, I swear to God.
Nice.
And because when I first started doing the Euros, I was still like competing really heavily in jiu-jitsu. Okay. So like a competition would come up and I'd have to go for 2 days. I'd have to go to California or to Texas or wherever to go compete. And I'd be like, I have to go because that's all I cared about, you know? And so I would leave, and she was the only person who I trusted to take care of anything. And so inevitably the competition season would overlap with breeding season. So there would be 1 or 2 animals that laid eggs while I was gone. And my mom would call me. I'd literally be warming up for my matches. And my mom would call me and she'd be like, the Thomas I laid eggs. And I'd be like, oh shit. You know, so yep. but I mean, she took care of it. She pulled him out. She put him in the incubator. She had no problem. So yes, Eddie, she's the one who I requested her to go over to help at my shop. I pared everything down. So she didn't have to clean anything. She just had to, just put in a little bit of food with some animals, make sure these two aren't killing each other. And then, it's fine. But so she would go there for a couple hours every day. And she's seriously the coolest mom on the face of the earth. And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. But the rest of the time I dragged my ass to the shop. I drove in there. There's nobody else there. So it's like, I'm not putting anybody at risk or anything like that. So I just went in and was doing it miserable as shit. Cause I'm feverish and it's like 95 degrees in the shop because it's Euros. You know what I mean? So it's like a million degrees and I'm just sitting there coughing and, pulling shit out and trying not to let my Egyptian bite me because he's a fucking asshole.
That's one of the perks of doing it from where you live, because then something happens, it's pretty easy to take care
of. It's a little less than having to drive.
You need a property, son.
Yes.
You're here in Central Florida, buddy.
You're absolutely right about the property. That's like, I mean, you're literally talking about my biggest stressor right now, which is that I pay overhead for a shop.
Right, for the shop.
And it's like, look, you have to, you got to do what you got to do. I had to move in. I had to expand. It is what it is. Yeah. But it does make winter terrifying. Right. It's like, I've just got a budget and just figure it out because there's nothing's breeding in the winter here.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's how it is for us. It's always been that way. We basically, by October, we know that we have to tighten everything up, and then you live off of what you made for those 4 or 5 months where everything is, and then you just basically sit down and chill out and do shit around the house or whatever. And then when the season comes back, you pray to God that everything is going to work out again.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah,
or produce some, albino red tegus just right before the
that was a luck thing.
Well,
honestly, I didn't even count on that. I sent when the state fucking banned them and I sent them to North Carolina, I thought, we disturbed them in the middle of the set because I had raised them for babies here, and then so I sent them out to Ryan's place, and so even Ryan, we weren't sure, but he overwintered them. They came up, they did their thing, and we ended up hatching 19 beautiful little.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
Yeah, those are some of the craziest looking lizards I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's what I always wanted, which kind of sucks because they finally came around. I mean, I'm really, I'm appreciative that I was able to do that a lot of shows, and be the one to do that. But what I really wanted was albino reds. Like real.
Well, here, so Ron, I thought that ruling was by 2024.
It is, but you have to put them in these concrete.
Oh, that's
expensive ass enclosures that I was not gonna. Why the fuck would I build that if I have to? If I can only have until 2024?
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah, that's why. And honestly, man, at the point it was at. With all the shit, I was just like, you know what? I don't even want these fucking things on my permit anymore because it's just going to make you more of a target for them to check on you and stuff, and and crawl up your ass looking for a problem with them. So I was like, they want them out, I'm just gonna send them out. It really wasn't as big a deal. Honestly, we had to pare down anyway, so we can really focus now on the knolls, and we also have those axanthic crested geckos, which are a shockingly and surprisingly potent fucking project.
Cool.
So I really need to focus more on that stuff. She needs to focus more on the blue tongues and the Ackies, and so
you have, is that whose line of axanthics is it?
I have Catherine Stranahan's.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Matt. Matt from.
Oh yeah, Kerouac I know Matt got some too.
Yeah.
I mean, all three of those I suspect are probably from the same source. I just think that because so if you go back to when I was doing the blue tegus, right? Mm-hmm. For years I was making hets, didn't know it, selling blue tegus all over the place, all over the country. Well, some of them went out to other countries, right? Every one of those was a het albino or possible het. I had no idea, and nobody else did either. It wasn't until I started breeding my own babies back together that the albinos popped out, right? Well, so random people all over the place that had blue tegus over the years have had blue tegus born, right? Because they accidentally paired up the right ones. Does that make them their own lines?
Good point.
Right? So
yeah, sure.
And crested geckos have a fairly small initial gene pool as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very likely that all the axanthics are the same thing. Now, it's fine to call them your own line, Catherine has hers, Matt has his, Altitude Exotics has theirs.
Yeah.
But are they actually distinct things? Nobody's going to know that until they test them.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a lot of test breedings and stuff.
Is that is it like a recessive, or is it a codon?
It's a simple recessive.
Okay.
And so we bought 3 of them from Catherine when she first popped them out, and they're adults now. And I produced hets last year, and now I'm breeding the hets back together and stuff. So
that's badass.
Yeah, it's a crested gecko. It's not something I get excited about, but a lot of other people do. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, next year Ron will have 900 adults breeding.
No. No, I've devoted Eddie's seen it. I've devoted a very small section to it. It's one adult rack, one baby rack. That's it. My goal is just to make a little bit of cash, selling these things while they're stupidly expensive and very sought after. Yeah. And then eventually I'll move on, and they're not something I'm going to do long term. I've just never been a crested gecko guy. The anoles that's a different story. So I'm putting a lot of effort into that. And then there's all.
I think that effort is probably rightfully placed, man. Those things are unbelievable. Those Potier, good God.
Yeah, they're crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's why when that project came up, I called my buddy Scott, who's one of our investors, and I was like, dude, it's a lot of money, but it's a pretty amazing project, and I think it has some legs. And so he was like, let's do it. So we bought them, and I've had them. When did I get them? Last year? Yeah, I got them last year. And we're already producing them, and I've cut a few. I've got so many people on my ass for them, but I need to hold back some for myself, and so I'm slowly leaking them out to people that are serious, to people that I know will do something with them. I really need a lot of breeders that get projects like this will intentionally sell them to people they don't think can breed them. But that works against you, actually, and particularly in a situation like this, because if I don't have 10, 12, 15 people out there producing them, and there's only one guy producing them, then the project doesn't look like it has much legs to it. It looks like, it's a thing that only this guy can do, or his specific conditions. So they need to go to people that are going to do something with them, so that they in turn go out there and sell them, which is advertising and
creates a market.
It creates the market. It pushes the project forward. So a lot of people shoot themselves in the face by trying to control the market. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, I mean, there's arguments to be made that in, you know, like in ball pythons, that philosophy seems to work. But I know for a fact that it won't work here. It'll just blow up in your face if you try to only put them with people that are less likely to produce them. So yeah. So that's kind of the criteria that I'm kind of putting them out right now. I'm putting them with people that I know are going to breed them or have a good chance of breeding. They're stupid easy anyway. I mean, I really think that they're like crested geckos. Like everybody, if you put just the base amount of work into these, you'll get them to produce and you'll be successful with them, which is one of the big pluses. But, you know, I have to prove that to people. They can't just take my word for it. They need to see lots of other people doing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so people are dumb. Sorry. I mean,
you don't have to be sorry.
I watched your Kaufman video and it was great. And then I went and looked at some of the comments after you said that. And I was like, what is wrong with people? Like,
no, man, I'm unfriendly, motherfucker.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I joke around about it. I could see where they get that. I mean, I don't exactly dress friendly. I kind of intentionally kind of want people to be cautious on approach. I just don't want to be mobbed, you know, or have people constantly in your shit. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I like kind of being left alone in the background. That's why. I mean, I do a lot of these podcasts and things, but I don't really go out much. Fuck, Eddie knows I'm always sitting here and
he's always there.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm an introvert. That's just how it is. I can get over it on shit like this. This is easy, but you know, in the public, like when I do shows, there's so many people, and it's just like, you know, and I know a lot of people, so I have friends come over and, you know, want to talk. But if I have, like, there's been lots of times, particularly where I've had, you know, I've been talking to people that I have wanted to see and haven't seen for a long time. But then I've got, like, you know, 5 or 6 other people standing around waiting to get my attention to ask a question or something.
Sure.
And I mean, my time is limited, so I want to spend it where I want to spend it.
Yeah. Yeah. Me and my wife are the same way. We're not go out and party people. You know, I can hang around. I can hang around with a small group of people, you know, have a barbecue, something like that. But going out, and it's just, Eddie, I did go to Daytona Sunday morning for like 2 hours, and I left everybody at home. I shot out there. I met with Bob Vu, and then right out. And it was like, I walked around my buddy Derek for a few minutes, and I was like, there was literally nothing that was interesting me. Nothing. I was like, a bunch of ball pythons. I got venomous. At that point, I still had venomous stuff coming. I was like, I'm going home.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I just too many people without masks on. And
you left probably, or you got there probably like right when I left.
Yeah. I was there.
And I was there for 2 days.
Yeah.
I went back home, but yeah.
Yeah. No, you know, I don't know. The last month and a half has been pretty shitty for me. So there's issues on the whole reptile side. There was a few people I just really didn't want to see there. And it's just like, you know, it's just not really all that worth, you know, all worth being there. I wasn't buying anything. There was nothing. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I got to look for this or look for that, or I want this or I want that. You know, I needed a hook, and the hook that I wanted, nobody had the size. So I was like, fuck it. You know, I hung out with a couple of the guys, you know, from the Herpeticulture podcast, Justin and Bratz and those guys that we're friends with. And, you know, over that, it was like, you know, we did go up Friday night to meet with Billy, who's a friend of Aiden's, does carpet pythons. So we went and met up with him and talked to him for a little bit. And that's really all Aiden wanted, was just to see Billy. So, you know, he wanted to see
which Billy?
Billy Hunt.
Yeah.
So Uabami, I think I said that right. Billy will watch this and correct me if I didn't. I can't.
For me, for that show, I just go there. I see the people that I don't see for, you only see them online. But I don't really buy things. I support the people that I like, so I buy their shirts, and I'm out of there.
Yeah.
I still have yet to go to any of these shows. Like I really would like to eventually get to some of these shows just to meet everybody. I mean, shit, but I haven't been able to for, one reason or another. I'm jealous.
Yeah, you're going to have to at some point.
Oh,
I personally think Phil would kill it at a Tinley.
Oh yeah,
I agree. Yeah, that's where you need to go.
Okay.
I know. I 100% think that you would absolutely just kill it.
All right. Well, I guess now I'll plan for 2022, because assuming anything breeds, I'll bring a bunch of it to Tinley or somewhere. Yeah. Good.
I can honestly see because of the stuff and the quality, and not tooting your horn or anything, but it's nice. Something like that you don't see at every table, people are going to kill. People are going to eat that up.
Yeah.
Dude, you will legit, you'll do very well.
Yeah.
Okay. Very well at Tinley.
Well,
to give you an idea, Heather and I used to do around 38 shows a year.
Uh-huh.
So
holy crap, dude!
38 fucking weekends on the road.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, we had to. We were rebuilding, and that was our only source of income. So, but when COVID hit, we cut all of them out except for the Tinley shows.
Okay.
So basically, we have to go away for a few days at a time to pull that off because it's in Chicago. And
yeah. So
I have old Eddie over there. We're staying here watching our shit, and then we
guard dog.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And but that show you cannot. I mean that is the show to do. And once you get in there, you don't let your fucking tables drop.
Okay.
You need to maintain them.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Because otherwise,
I think you would come.
Take a while.
I think you would go home with nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I would almost say that you might even sell out day one. I could see that.
Yep, that's exactly. I mean,
all that
obscure. Yeah, I watch.
Yep. That's exactly what I was about to say.
I often get put up right next to Joe Hupp's table, who he's a big gecko guy.
Yeah, I know Joe.
And he does a lot of obscure and weird stuff. Dude, he is slammed from like the beginning to the end.
That's cool.
The hell out of it. Because all the hardcore people are there.
Yeah. Well, I know. So part of one of the reasons I wanted to go just beyond having animals to bring is just to meet people. I mean, look, Colorado's great. I'm really lucky to have a couple of friends here who are great people. Like one in particular who you might even say he's like single-handedly responsible for getting me to commit to doing reptiles full-time in the first place. But like, I've got great friends, but the majority of people in Colorado, and again, I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody in particular. I'm just saying that there's just not that many people taking it really, really seriously, doing fun, cool stuff. Who are interested in talking about really cool shit, or who will entertain my bullshit for hours on end, because I'll just go, man. I'll keep talking forever about like what the fuck how many flowers to feed a fucking Euromastix. It's like they're just the most boring topics, and so beyond, I just want to go meet people, and like Joe he's told me, you got to come out there. Like a couple of guys have said, come out, just a party. It's a really good time, and I've always been so nervous about it because of the horror stories I've heard about people getting shit swiped off their table and, little stuff like that.
Very easy. I can, that kind of stuff I can advise you on super easy, dude.
Okay.
We've never had anything stolen.
Yeah,
shit! Here. All right. Well, that's enough. That's enough. All the information I need.
I mean, there's just some basic things you just need to be. You need to know how these fuckers work.
Yeah.
They have a few different
tactics,
strategies. Yeah, if you know how to do it.
And I don't think Phil's.
If I catch you on mine.
I don't think Phil's the type to put animals like his type of animals in deli cups stacked. So
exactly.
I think he'll be okay.
And that's how most people get jacked.
He's probably gonna have them displayed with the heat and
oh yeah.
I would say somewhat of a natural environment for eye display.
Yep. Yeah. You got to see that ornate running around and looking pretty.
Yeah. A lot of the theft are people who have the deli cups. That's the easiest. Ron and I have a mutual friend who probably gets stuff swiped every single show.
Every show.
Shit.
Every show. Yeah. Every show.
If you know it's happening, stop it. What?
He doesn't feel that it's worth the effort to
we
do
know he's not gonna. We know he's not gonna watch this. So yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He doesn't learn.
No.
That's
but
well, I mean, that sucks that he's. But I mean, to each their own. If that's his, if he feels that it's better to lose a couple animals to people taking them than to. I mean, hey.
Yeah,
that's
but
his.
Someone like him is also selling at a huge volume at those shows,
and it's all cheap shit. Yeah,
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've said this in the past, but I mean, really, I think I'll plan for 2022 to make a Tinley, and I'll bring some shit, man. I'll bring some.
Bring the fire.
I'll bring some rad Euros, and maybe if I hatch anything else, I'll bring that shit too. But we'll see. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, when we take crazy rare stuff, it always sells out on Friday, even before the show starts.
Oh, okay. Oh,
like while we're setting up, people are just
wow.
That's actually Friday setup can be the best day of the whole thing. That's how crazy that show is, because literally it brings people from all over the world, and it has probably the highest concentration of really serious herpers.
Yeah,
like people that are real serious. Like all of the big guys are there usually. You know, the people that are doing stuff, pushing stuff forward, the really hardcore, you know, nerds that are like us that are really into this stuff. Those guys all make the pilgrimage, I guess is what you would call it, to Tinley for 2 days in October. The October one is better than the March one, but the March one can be better for sales.
Oh, so interesting. Well,
they're both good.
Yeah. I mean, October would be the one I have to do, because in March nothing will. That's only when everything's laying eggs here most of the time.
Right, and that's why sales are good then, though, because if you have leftovers and stuff. You go into in March and there's a lot less competition.
See, here's the thing though, for somebody like Phil, he's not with the stuff that he has. There's not a lot of there next to nobody out there with it. So I think both of those shows you would stand to do fantastic at, because you're just, it's not like there's going to be 20 tables with the same thing on it. It's not like having ball pythons.
Yeah. I have yet to see anybody exclusively sell Euros at a show.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. Well, then I'll make it happen, man. I really will. I mean, I have a few. I have a group. Actually, I was just telling Ron about this yesterday. I think I've got a group of ornates, and then a few princeps that I maybe one Moroccan that I held on to specifically with the intention to sell later. If I hang on to those things until, but the thing is, it wouldn't make much sense to just bring those in March, because it's just not enough. It's just not enough animals, you know. There'd have to be like some kind of bare minimum number I'd have to hit to attend, you know. But regardless, I'll do it. I'm gonna do it.
Dude, you could fucking show up with Euromastic shirts, and you would sell this. You could pay for your table just on Euromastic shirts.
On shirts.
Yeah, for sure.
Shirts like only.
Crazy, man. Yep.
Man.
For real, man.
That's
I look, one of the only things I ever buy there, unless I'm specifically looking for like some animal, I buy shirts. I walk around and I buy shirts. I never wear them on reptile things, because I only wear gaming and metal and punk rock shit to reptile stuff. But then when I go and do gaming stuff, I wear reptile shirts. Right.
Nice.
Sick.
Nice.
It's like trolling to see like-minded motherfuckers are out there. But
see, I mean, this podcast already has just you guys are changing my mind every time we do this, giving me good ideas.
Well, hey, I got an idea. Let's throw a firebomb into it and talk about hybrids.
I already know.
Yes.
Oh God.
Yes.
Oh shit. And here it goes. So who's for hybrids and who's against?
I like hybrids.
Yeah. I do too.
I have mixed feelings, but I don't dislike them in any regard. Like okay, you guys mind if I
go ahead.
Do it. Spew some shit.
Go ahead, Phil. I'm waiting.
I'm terrified. And so I literally, I really, I don't hate them at all. I really don't hate. I don't think there's any. I don't see any problem with anything. It's not like that. It's in Uromastics as a niche. It is like the one thing you can do. It's either hybridizing or feeding a Euro a fucking mealworm that will make people shit their pants. They just lose their fucking mind. Okay.
Right.
And in some regard, I can understand some of the problems that people have with hybridization of Euros, specifically with Euros. And one is none of the species, not ornates, not mollies, not Saharans, nothing is at all established in herpetoculture by any stretch of the imagination, not even close. Like if one or two people got out of it, we might not see ornates ever again. You know what I mean? Because there's just not enough people doing them. So I understand that argument. I think that the conservation arguments that people make are generally horseshit. But I say that with, again, like a relatively limited knowledge base, because, oh my God, I really have way too much. I'm going to try to get as much out as I can without monopolizing the discussion, because I want to start with this other thing really quick, if you don't mind. So I used to work with a lot of collared lizards, quite a few Crotophytus species. Okay.
Yep.
And one of the trends in that particular market is locality specific collared lizards. Okay. Now I was fortunate when I was working with them to go out and collect animals myself. Right. I got all the proper permits and hunting licenses, and I collected my own animals. And I could definitely say, okay, my Baja collared lizards, my, Bicinctories, my Great Basins, they all come from the same 1/4 mile of fucking hillside. And the people who would buy them from me for that would just get massive boners over that. That was their thing. It's like, oh, it's so pure, like it's this thing. And I think that argument, just talking about locality specific, throws a monkey wrench into the whole concept of purity in the first place. Because anyone think the ornates that I have all come from the same fucking hillside? Not a snowball's chance in hell. They all come probably from multiple countries, separated by millennia of complete genetic separation. So the idea that they should be the same, anything is flawed from the start, right? So I get both ends of this argument to a certain degree. I will also say one thing, which I think is relatively important, and maybe it'll make sense right away, or maybe it won't, but I think that there's a related discussion to be had here around the concept of runts, or like pick of the clutch. And what I mean by that is people will say, oh, I want the pick of the clutch ornate, or I want if someone has a problem with a Euro, they'll ask me like, was it the runt by chance? And I'm like, I don't even believe in these concepts, because we are, as captive stewards of a reptile, we are completely flawed selectors. We are imperfect selectors. We are nowhere near as good as nature at choosing what animal should continue to live forward and breed. Like we don't have any idea. So to me, that's related to the concept of purity and like hybridization and things like that, because we assume that by picking animals like X, Y, or Z that we're doing some service to these animals. It's like, no, we have no idea what kind of weird genetic byproducts are coming as a result of our taste preferences on the animals that we're breeding. Like what is the value in keeping these things pure or segregated for the sake of some fabled conservation bullshit that in the grand scheme of things is probably never going to happen. No one's going to come to me and be like, hey, all the ornates died. Can we take some of yours and put them out in Israel? It's never going to happen. No. It's never going to happen. Right. I mean, I'll stop.
Ed and I had that conversation today.
We both had that. Yes. Who did you have that conversation with?
Me?
With you.
Oh, no.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
Yeah, I keep and breed Chinese box turtles, critically endangered species of turtle.
Yeah.
They will never, no one's going to come up to me from the TSA
It's never going to happen.
And say, Eddie, we need your turtles. They need to go back. It's not going to happen.
Nope. Right.
And at pancake tortoises, all those weird species I have that are endangered, no one's going to contact me and throw those in a gene pool in the wild. Not a single person.
Right. And I'll say the other thing, like with Euros anyway, if I may go back just to and kind of argue the other end of it for a brief moment, I could see if you were going to hybridize something to enhance it, right? Like, let's make this a better animal, right? Like, okay, ornates are gorgeous. Egyptians are assholes. Make a giant, beautiful, non-asshole Egyptian ornate hybrid. Okay. Like that would make sense. I'm literally just pulling this out of my ass. I don't really mean that.
Or make a beautiful asshole.
Or whatever, a beautiful asshole. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, for most Euros, each species is gorgeous in and of itself. It wouldn't I can't think of a reason to hybridize any of the species of Uromastyx because they kind of each have their own charm and their own quirk and their own beautiful thing. But it's like, the reason I have a dog, my golden retriever, is because people were like, well, I kind of like this dog and that dog, and I'm going to put them together because I'm making a pet. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, unless I saw a reason to breed two species of Euros together for some value, I wouldn't bother. But that's just a byproduct of the fact that there's no reason to do it. I could see if I had some other species of animal, some other genre that I was working with, if it made sense to hybridize. I don't see what's the beef? What's the problem? I don't really see the, yeah. So
hey, let me ask you this. Yeah. Are people, I know obviously people are breeding subspecies together, localities together. They're mixing it up in the Euro world. I'm very ignorant to the Euro world,
sure.
But are people in the hobby breeding actual species with one another?
Yeah. So there's a few instances in which this has happened. The first, Douglas Dix did this many years ago, back when he was still working with Euros. He bred orange Moroccan Uromastyx to black and white banded Uromastyx, which is Uromastyx nigriventris and Uromastyx flavofasciata. And his goal was to create the locality of orange banded Uromastyx, orange flavofasciata, which he speculated were the result of natural intergradation. And so he bred animals to make that. He was looking to make that. And I mean, now some other people have done some genetic work on flavofasciata, and they say that there was no natural intergradation, and that's fine and whatever. But that example has led to a few people in other countries. I've seen some people in Malaysia and a handful of people in different Asian countries that have tried to breed different species of Uromastyx together. Now, the Uromastyx group on Facebook, the biggest one, doesn't allow any of that. So if anyone posts anything like that, they get booted from the group. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I didn't make the rules. It's not really my thing. It's not my group. I don't care, but it's just, I still have not really yet to see it yield anything except in very closely related species. Like the flavofasciata and nigriventris. I mean, it's obvious that if you bred them together, they would produce viable offspring. People have done it before. I'm sure people are going to do it again in the future. Now, if you took an ornate and bred it to a Moroccan, would you get viable offspring? I have no clue, but again, maybe I don't really see the point in doing that, but at the same time, I just feel like it's one of those things that's going to happen. And especially now that we're starting to see a real short list of legitimate mutations pop up in Uromastyx, I'm sure it's going to happen. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ron.
I mean, this is a subject that pretty much most of what Phil said is along my same lines of thinking. I mean, I think the locales and all that stuff, unless you go and collect them yourself, it's almost all horse shit.
Yeah.
People will say anything. People take animals that look similar and claim they're the same locale, and you have no way of proving any of that shit. most collecting data is suspect at best. You know, a lot of it comes from dealers. They have no idea. And there's also this little thing called natural fucking variation that will mean that even within a given locale, you're going to have a wide range of expression unless they're severely isolated. And there's a lot of long-term inbreeding there where they're almost fucking clones, which doesn't really happen for the most part. I mean, it does. I'm imagine it's happens in a few instances, but most of these locales have a fairly, you know, big enough range and there's a lot of overlap and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I've always kind of ignored the locale thing. I never really gave it too much credit. And I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We looked at green tree pythons. So Andrew, my older son, was super interested in green trees, but he's not so much interested in the designer stuff as much as he is interested in locality, like having pure Aru, pure Biak, pure Sarong, so on. So we started talking to people and saying, hey, you know, how would you start to do this? Like if he were to start now buying females or just accumulating animals, just purchasing animals and throwing them in cages, and 2, 3, 4 years, just continue working. He's only 22, you know, 4 or 5 years, have a nice collection of green trees, maybe add a designer male at that point where you can kind of cross into some of the females, but keep more of the locality pure stuff. And I think we talked to about a half dozen people that all said pretty much what Ron just said.
Yeah.
You can't trust anybody.
How would you know?
Yeah, you have no way of knowing.
Yeah, there's no way of truly knowing at this point because so many people have gone out and now they're, I took this one and put it with this one and it's this name and that name and it's this fancy this and it's this fancy that and this one is the sickness and this one is the weirdo and, you know.
But honestly, it's not even at this point. It's pretty much always been that way. Yeah. So it's, I mean, okay, you know, it's cool if you want to, you know, replicate a certain, you know, look, then have at it. But this gatekeeping that has gone with some of that, sometimes you got to break the fucking gate.
Yeah,
that's a great term. Gate. That's a really good way to put it. Gatekeeping.
Yeah, and I'm about to come into the ire of some of them soon. So, I mean, this is the way I look at it. Okay, so I was one of the first people to hybridize the tegus back in the day. When the first albinos popped out, my first thought was, okay, these are awesome, and I'm going to do well with these for a while. But eventually, people are going to get tired of this, and I want to have something else. I want to be working on something else, so that when these get, you know, starts to wane down, I can say, hey, look, you know, these were cool, but I got this fucking incredible designer albino. So what I started doing was I crossed them with reds because I wanted to make a red albino hybrid, you know, a red albino. I couldn't get a pure one at the time, but so I did it, but I maintained groups of pure animals, right? So my goal was, I did have lines of hybrids, but I did have lines of pure animals. The problem is that when I quit tegus in 2004, a lot of the guys that I had helped build up were a little more indiscriminate about it. And they made all these they just started calling the hybrids all these different names and made it confusing. And a lot of people weren't doing any pures anymore because, to be honest, the albinos the hybrids were better suited for the pet trade. They were more vigorous. They were because they were crosser reds. They were more tractable because blue tegus can be assholes. There was a lot of reasons why the hybrids were more popular, and they were prettier. So over time, without me doing them, there wasn't many pures left. And then when I came back, when I decided I want to start doing them again in 2015 or so, it was kind of hard to find pure blue tegus. I mean, I know, you know, my buddy Jason Hood has them. I think Russ Gurley still has them, but there wasn't a lot of pures out there that I could, like, people would tell me they had pures and I'd go look at them and they clearly were hybrids. I mean, there wasn't even any debate about it. So there were a lot of them that were mislabeled. And so that is the problem that a lot of people have with hybrids. However, like you said, the argument tends to be, well, it's bad for conservation, and all this. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. But nobody's ever going to come to you and ask for your fucking blue tongue skinks to go and reintroduce them in Australia. That's never going to happen. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. No, conservation of the species is not something that any of us is going to be involved in. And I mean, I highly doubt it.
We make pets for the pet trade. At the end of the day, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just be honest about it. There's no need to virtue signal with some horse shit about how we're doing this, noble thing. Look, we make pets for people, and that should be enough. That's the honest. It's an honest living. Everybody that I know puts all of their, everybody tries to do it ethically. They try to put out, good animals, and do all the things right.
Well, I mean, there's enough fodder for ethics just in that, just in saying like, I want to make so to bring this back into the Euro thing again, I have some friends now. I know like 3 off the top of my head who have all hatched some funky ass mutation in 3 different species of Euro. A Molly, a Princeps, and a Philbii, and then of the ornates, I have one of these weird ornates too, this hypo ornate thing. So I guess 4 total. But even just looking, if you take the whole conservation, the purity bullshit out of it, just the act of making a sustainable pet for the long term with really good attributes without sacrificing health. Like there's so much in that already. Right. There's so much there. Like that's enough to sink your teeth into for a lifetime. I mean, just look at any long-term established pet. Like look at a koi or a dog or a cat or like any of these things. Or a bird, something that's been bred by humans for millennia. I mean, there's a lot of responsibility and a lot of stewardship and a lot of hard work and dedication and time and forethought and planning and so much that goes into that. How can you possibly mix in some conservation? I mean, and look, like I'll probably always have, no matter what I ever do with these Euros, if I ever morph them or whatever, like I'm always going to have a line of like as much untainted Ornata as I possibly can have, like wild type Ornata. But it's like, I mean, again, I'm an imperfect selector. I'm never going to choose the perfect thing, the right thing. They're going to change no matter what over the generations. Like I don't really, and I'm going to like, all my friends in the Euro community have watched all of the podcasts that I've done and all the ones I've done with you guys. And they'll be like, oh, it was great. I loved it. This is the one they're all going to fucking hammer me on. They're going to be like, that hybrid shit's some fucking bullshit, man. You need to get your shit together. And I'm like, look, dude.
But here's a question I would ask them. Why? Give a good reason other than conservation. It's the same thing we say about free handling. When you ask somebody, why do you free handle that Cobra? Right. Because I can? No. Why?
Well, again, with the Euros, I can get on board with the argument that it doesn't make sense to do it with some of them, right? Like why each species is unique enough and has a look, if they all looked real similar, if they were like, if the differences between them were relatively they are massive morphological differences between them. They're just so different. It just doesn't make much sense to do it. I could argue that argument for a little while, but it's like, but it's still a relatively short-lived argument. It doesn't mean anything at the end of the day because it's still just a preferential argument, and preference doesn't really mean anything in this particular realm. It's like literally preference is what is going to guide the future of any animal that is being bred in captivity for. As soon as you die, it's someone else's preferences. You know what I mean? Like you could spend your entire life dedicated to keeping ornates pure and molly free, like who cares? You die and some fucko is going to do it. It doesn't mean anything, So I don't know.
And this is why I don't let the community dictate what I'm going to do, to be honest. I let the market does dictate to some degree my moves, but I never let these groups whether they were forums, Facebook, other people's opinions are of no real interest to me beyond, and here's why. Most of the people that are out there throwing their opinions around, that's their opinions. Everybody has them. I have mine. I choose not to throw mine all over the place, but if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But again, that's your opinion. That's your belief. And if you have that belief and you want to espouse that, have at it. But don't try to tell me what I'm supposed to believe. Yeah. That's like a myriad of other problems that humanity has. You can tether it to religion or politics, but there's always some glass house motherfucker that wants to tell you how you're supposed to think and what you're supposed to be on board with. So, but we have Heather and I have a pretty big investment in blue tongues, and we have all the morphs. We also have different species. We have occipitalis here. We have nigrolatia. Now, in those two instances, making hybrids is stupid. There's no reason to do it. They're rare. The focus needs to be on making more of those and getting them out, to people. But 10, 15 years down the line, if they're as common as northerns, let's say by then, maybe it'll be worth making an albino occipitalis or an albino nigrolatia. Who knows? I see it as a situation of if X is true, then go to Y kind of a thing, where there's no hard, fast rules here. I know there are some people that are going to lose their shit over that. Oh, yes, there is no hybrids at all. It's a cash grab. Okay, well, unless you do nothing for, you're not making a dime. You're sitting around on your high horse, in your holy land. And you're getting loads of bread handed to you from whatever. Who the hell are you to tell me what a cash grab is? Because I have to make a living. That's how I make a living. Now, that said, in my opinion, and in the opinion of quite a few other people who have not made their opinions known, but who I've talked to privately, taking those albino and morph skincoides, and they are pure skincoides, or at least we think they're pure skincoides. Again, that would require some DNA tests to prove, and I don't think anybody's done that. So, but the gatekeepers would have you believe that the pure skincoides are pure, and there's no doubt about it. Okay, that's fine. Well, they seriously frown on even the entertaining the thought of crossing those into northerns. Well, there's a reason to cross them into northerns. Northerns are better suited for captivity. That's just how it is. It's a fact. They breed easier. They tend to be better pets. They're less nervous on average. Northerns are perfect. So if you took the albinos, you cross them into northerns, you're even at that point, you can argue you're strengthening the northerns because and the skincoides at the same time, they're both limited gene pools. So you're kind of, you're kicking it up there, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to do it, but more importantly, the reason to do it is to bring all of those mutations into a generic blue-tongued skink for the pet trade of mutations. When you're making morphs, what fucking difference does it make whether they're pure or not? They are morphs already. They're never going back to the wild. There's absolutely no conservation idea behind that. They are, in essence, solely for the pet trade.
Right.
So think about it this way. What exactly what you just said is, if you're wanting that albino, you obviously know that it's not pure. It's could potentially be a cross or a hybrid. So if you're looking for, if you're that guy and you want to have that locality specific, I always go back to the gray band people, because there's like, you got this road and that road and this crossroad and, hey, that's great. If that's what you want and that's what you're into, there is nothing wrong with that. I think you're a nerd like the rest of us, and you just nerd out in a different way.
Right.
So understanding that if you're getting that hybrid, that albino, the axanthic, whatever, that's just your choice. But to knock on other people who are producing them for the pet trade, there's a difference for that, you know.
And look, I can say at least a few times in my brief career, not necessarily in Europe, maybe once or twice in Euros, but like, I can count a few times when I've had friends who are just vehemently opposed. Don't even bring hybrids into the discussion, just mutation, just some random mutation. They'd be like, no, I'm not for it. And then, like a year later, they call me and they're like, hey man, I hatched this really weird looking chuckwalla. What do you think? Do you think it's like an albino, or what do you think? It's like, that person's not going to turn their nose up to that little possible albino, whatever it is in their collection that just hatched. They never do. They never, ever do.
No. Yeah. It's easy to throw stones when you don't have them.
Yeah.
When they pop, but when you do have them, then all of a sudden it's a different story.
Right.
And, but I mean, that's fine too. Like I said, the reason where I was going with all this is that what I've decided, there are certain projects here that I am taking into a hybridy kind of way. I'm going to do that with some of the anole species. You're not going to see me take albino equestris and breed them to Ludogalaris. And the reason is that Ludogalaris are extremely rare. People have tried to establish once, but can I say that 10 years from now, when I'm personally have put thousands of them into the trade and other people have added to that 10 times over, am I not going to look at that and go, well, this albino podior thingamajiggy that I have over here would probably look pretty cool with a little Ludogalaris thrown in. That's possible. And at that point, it's no longer a Ludogalaris. It's another albino mutation for the pet trade. It's not for the guy who wants the pure thing. And to sort of, and we're going to do this with the blue tongues too. We're going to maintain very solid, well-tracked, pure lines. And that will be for those people, but there'll also be for us. And the reason is that there's plenty of times in my career where I've been working on something and wanted an animal that had no genes in it. Like when you look at today, if you look at leopard geckos or bearded dragons, it's very hard to get something that's clean. Right. Clean and pure. It's really difficult. So we're not going to allow that to happen to the blue tongues or the anoles here. So we're going to maintain, as long as we're doing them, lines that are untainted, completely pure, have nothing in them. Now those lines won't make any money, and they're basically, they'll pay for themselves, but that's about all they'll do. But that's fine. I mean, but that's for us to have on hand, so we don't have to go looking around and desperately try to find, one that doesn't have who knows how many genes crammed into it. Maybe it isn't carrying it. Because if you get something new, you really want something that's clean. To start that project out. Yeah, and because you don't want to stack all. I think one of the problems of herpetoculture right now is this need to stack everything we can into one thing. Like you see these 5, 6, 7, 8 gene things. They're indiscernible now. Now you just got whatever that is. Now, if you can make something that's really fucking awesome, have at it, and that's cool. If that floats your boat, do it. But when everything is like that, then that becomes a problem. So what it really comes down to is just personal responsibility. Everybody, if you care about having things pure, and there's certainly a value in that, then do it. But don't go, trying to impose that on the community at large. That's horseshit. That's glass house crap, and it's hypocritical. And that's the problem that I have with those with a lot of that gatekeeping shit. And I'm sure I'm going to get hate mail over this, but it is what it is.
Typing some
this
up
is
right
going
now.
To be this is going to be clipped, and it's going to be all over the place.
Yeah. Have at it, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
So with me, I'm literally 50-50. I'm for them. I can be against them. I bred the Angolan to the ball python one time. That was just for me. It's called an angry ball, by the way, for people who wanted to know. But at the same time, there was a period. It was 2008. I was shopping for a diamond python for myself, just to have. It took me 2 years of shopping to find a pure diamond python.
Mm.
All over kingsnake.com was nothing but crosses.
Yeah.
And the closest thing I could find at the time was a 75% diamond, 25% jungle. But other than that, it was just 50-50 down this lit. I just wanted that for myself. It was for me, it was a dream to have a pure diamond just as a display. Yeah. It took me 2 years to find a diamond. I could not find a pure diamond. The cool thing was people were advertising what they had, because a 50-50 cross of a diamond and a jungle looks like a diamond. It's really really hard to tell the difference. But yeah, it took me 2 years to find it. So I get that point where it's kind of frustrating at the same time. So
yeah. And that also, again, but see, that stuff actually opens opportunities though for people that want to maintain pure stuff maintain pure stuff and at least be able to pay for the hobby, whatever it is you're doing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, right now, the way things are with the Anolis equestris, with the albinos that I have, the non-het just normals are utterly and completely worthless because they're caught in large numbers in South Florida. They're a couple bucks that you can't even, you can't justify that. So it makes sense to make those hybrids to make more radical looking things. Now, if it doesn't pan out, and I mean, even the word hybrid is sort of loosely used on that, because taking an Anolis equestris floridanus and breeding it to an Anolis equestris podior is just a subspecies cross. So it's not even an actual hybrid in that sense. And in that vein, the only hybrids that I do have working on the Anoles is I did breed a T-negative albino Anole equestris to a smallwood eye. And the reason that I did that is that smallwood eye is far better suited for the pet trade. It's much tamer. It's much more prolific. There's a lot of big pluses to smallwood eye that Equestris floridanus doesn't have.
I want a refund. My smallwood eye from you are assholes.
Are they?
Yeah, but I don't touch them at all. I just
I mean, I don't touch mine either, but all the ones I've had have been really, really mellow, really chill. You know what,
all my animals, most of my animals are not terribly friendly, except even the captive bred Ornata, like they're friendly for a little while and then they
know what the common denominator is there?
This guy right
here.
It's me. Yep.
No.
Yep. Yeah. No. I'm just playing around.
I know, but yeah. I mean, I think so. My goal with the albino Anoles is clearly to make a pet trade item that is going to be, I need people to buy them to be successful with them. Like I said earlier, Floridanus is more nervous, so removing the nervous quotient from that is important. It does appear that the hybrids are pretty solid, and a few years ago they were all those Cuban crown giants were Anolis equestris, smallwood eye, Anolis equestris, luteolaris, stuff like that. They were all. Then they did some genetic work. They realized there was some substantial differences, so they split them up into their own thing. But they're all on the same island. They're just separated out. But when babies are born, they're indistinguishable from each other. Like you can't tell them apart at all. So I have to be extremely careful with. I have to constantly have different caging, and all the caging is marked, and it's really easy to make a mistake. So it's the same fucking lizard. So,
yeah.
I mean, that you make the classification argument is a pretty strong one as well, because I mean, it's arbitrary classification. I mean, we're the ones sitting here just drawing boundaries between things where we see a boundary, where we want a boundary to be, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And if the apocalypse happened and all my Euros got out here in Colorado, they don't give a fuck. They're gonna be like, I'm gonna mate with that thing. Looks like it's gonna get it on, and in 100 years, 300 years, you'd have some creepy amalgam of of like all these different Euros running around out here in the
Phil, Colorado. I swear to God, if I didn't know any better, I think you were sitting in my brain, because that is something that I have said many times. I mean, honestly, pull yourself back from everything.
Yeah.
And then just the planet and all of the countries that we have. That's just some guy. People drew that up and said, okay, this denotes this is my this is this country and this is that country. The planet doesn't give a shit what humans call stuff. Nature could care fucking less. And there's so many unknowns about all of this, right? I mean, we kind of sit and think everything is figured out, but really everything that we think, some other guy just thought it up and wrote it down, and then we just accept it as, but it's all kind of arbitrary, all of it, the whole thing. So I mean,
kind of leading down this hybrid road is your import versus captive bred stuff. And I watched and I shared it on Facebook. It was a show about the tropical fish trade and ornamental fish. Cool. It's on my Facebook page. There's 2 episodes on YouTube, and it's fantastic. But
I actually watched the whole thing.
It's it's amazing.
I breed. A lot of people don't know this, but I also breed a lot of different species of pleco. I bred discus.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I love discus.
Cherry shrimp. I went crazy with cherry shrimp. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was already
goes on.
Yeah, and I was already like when you're in the fish world, I was already in the know about how important it was to the Amazon. Like literally, there's an argument about what they're doing, obviously, if you watched it. But I mean, first off, without the wild caught market in the Amazon, those people are going to either they're going to starve and die, or they're going to go into some other illegal trade. Mm-hmm. But it is fascinating. And I had bred some of those fish that they're talking about, and it's amazing. But at the same time, nothing compares to when you actually get it from the wild.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. The colors are a little different. Whenever you produce like I bred accidentally cardinal tetras.
Okay.
A couple water changes and boom, they breed. They were all dull. Like they were a dull color.
Okay.
Cardinal tetras are an extremely bright red and blue fish.
Yes.
When you captive breed them, they're pretty, but they do not
lose that color.
Equal. Yeah. But I enjoyed the hell out of that.
Yeah, to sit down and watch how our decisions here are affecting somebody in another country they're trying to make a living like we are.
Yep.
It goes back to that same argument of some guy in Madagascar catches a Ambanja panther chameleon, and the wholesaler or whatever they are gives them $1 for it. And then they sell it to the distributor here. They pay $100 for it. And then the end game is $500. But that person that caught that animal gets $1 or $2. And it's like, Dan Maliri had posted that, and I saw it. So I shared it so that I didn't forget about it, because I really wanted to watch it. But Dan had made the comment, I wish I could do a show like this about reptiles, but it would probably be detrimental to the whole trade, because it is a different thing. I mean, I think I've said this before to other people, where it's a fish person goes to the store to buy a $5 fish and buys $1,000 setup, whereas a reptile person buys $1,000 snake, but they want the absolute minimum setup. Can I spend $5 on this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, but that special is eye-opening, and it should be eye-opening for all of us in the reptile trade that say, hey, captive born animals are the best. We've had this conversation with Cody, who is my mentor for all my venomous stuff. And unfortunately, they've had some pretty substantial, kicks in the balls. They bought a collection of green tree pythons and ended up with nidovirus. Killed 95% of that collection. And we're not talking $200 animals. some of those animals were $10,000 snakes. So
shit.
Right after that happens, and they, they're very open about it. Right after that happens, they get paramyxo, which is I guess I say a similar disease in vipers. So they lose some extremely expensive, vipers. So those things, Cody will tell you now that it's almost better, you'd think, to get them from the wild, because who knows who has what in their collection,
bro. Like I am terrified for when this pops up in Euromastics. I mean, because there's already maybe, I don't know, maybe I know you guys aren't necessarily Euro connoisseurs, but have you ever seen a Euromastics and it's got like a bunch of crust on its mouth, like a bunch of nasty crust on its gums and shit?
Yeah, I have.
You've seen this? Yeah, this is a type of oral.
I vend at Repticon every weekend. I see.
Yeah, you see it all the time. Yeah, so
he's talking about the customers.
Bazinga.
No, no, I see it with all the import. Euromastics. I see it.
Yeah, so this is a crust that's like an oral fungus that comes up in the mouths of Euromastics, and I've had, over the last 8 years or so, 3 or 4 different individuals show up in a box in my shop with that shit in their mouth, and they go right back out. Nothing stays, because that stuff, there's no cure for it. We can manage it, but it will flare up anytime. It'll flare up. They get stressed out. Yeah,
I was just gonna say, wait, let me stop you. Stress
and yeah, but here's the other thing is I think that I have a theory for where it comes from, and I think what happens is, so my contention is that Euromastics are almost always solitary. They are best alone, and one of the reasons is because I think what happens is when they bicker with each other, they bite each other's tails, and all those tail spines drive food particles and shit into their gums.
Okay.
And it causes little localized. I have no data to back this up. This is pure speculation on my part, but I have never seen this pop up in solo housed animals ever. It's always popped up in cohabitated animals. And I don't want it coming anywhere near my shit. I have no doubt that it's in my collection somewhere, but they're all solo, so it never comes up. Nobody, the only time they're together is in breeding season, and only for brief periods of time. They never bite each other's tails, really, so it's just not something that comes up. And in fact, the only time I ever saw it in my own animals was when I had 2 that were together. I insisted on trying to keep them together to try to figure this out. And the female got that shit in her mouth, and she was chasing the male, biting his tail, right when I noticed that it was even a problem. So, but it's that disease thing, that's a thing. And then what you say about the wild animals, do you have any idea what I would give for a box of 20 wild caught ornata right now? I would kill for that. I would love a box of wild caught ornata, because they can't get here, and I don't want anyone else's animals. No offense to the other guys doing it. There's other great people here, but I don't want their animals, because I don't want that shit coming into my collection. I just don't want it. I'm not going to bother. I can't afford that kind of stressor in my life right now. I just can't.
Has anybody done any studies or vet work on any of that?
Just, they have a classification for it, and they have methods of treating it. But again, it just doesn't go anywhere. And so that's all I really know about it specifically. I do know a lot of people who have animals in their collections that have that shit, and they just treat it. Their resolution is to just treat it and keep going. And there's a reason those animals aren't here. Just not going to do it.
It's a lot of the time that I intern there, a lot of our conversations were, just kind of off the cuff stuff. And I had made the comment to Cody a couple of times that how much of this nidovirus stuff could be in everybody's collection right now. And because your husbandry is good and your stress is minimal, that it doesn't flare up. It's not until you hear somebody say, oh, I moved all of my snakes from one building and I put up a new building and I moved them and 30 snakes died and I don't know why. Well, did you get a necropsy done? Oh no, I just chalked it up to because we moved.
Right.
And it's there. it's unfortunate, but it's there. And if you go back to the last couple carpet fests, the Southeast Carpet Fests that were done down here, some of the talks that were done by Fish Head Diagnostics and some of the other vets, they did a lot of work with nidovirus, and they're fantastic. The information is amazing. So I hate talking about biosecurity because I know there's some people that'll say, I have a quarantine policy. I do A, B, and C. Again, I work in somewhat of the pharma industry, and I can tell you right now that there's nobody out there doing it right.
No, dude, no reptile guys doing biosecurity right. Come on.
Putting 5 animals in your bedroom for 90 days and then moving them at the end of 90 days because they seem okay and putting them in with your collection is not the right way to do it. They're not. All you're doing is keeping them segregated. It's better than nothing. It's better than throwing them all together, but you're still not doing it properly. And I can tell you that I'm not. I mean, behind us right now, unfortunately, my female Eastern Green Mamba, I noticed the other day has got some swelling over one of her fangs.
Shit.
And I was looking at it and I'm like, man, that looks weird. And of course I want to see it. So she's turned the opposite way so that I can't see it. So now I've got to put gloves on. I've got to get the big tweezers and get her out of the cage and put her in my hands. And she's got some black fungus that they get. Mambas are notorious for right along that fang. So now I've ordered chlorhexidine and I've got betadine and I've got to do these. I've got to pull a snake out and put a little betadine on it, rinse it with chlorhexidine. And now I've got to do this for 10 days to try to get this to go away. So, it is what it is. There's not much that I can do. I don't have the ability to separate animals out that are venomous. I just don't. I don't have multiple rooms in my house for them. So, they have to come in here. Again, some of these diseases and stuff that are popping up it's scary. And, the hybridization stuff that everybody talks about is bad. If that's what you think is bad, whatever, I can tell you right now, I have less of a problem with that and more of an issue with somebody shipping me an animal than I do anything now. It's tough.
Well, so there's a couple things to know. First of all, I, after 30 some odd years, have never had my colony and a collection of anything wiped out. Not one time. Now I have brought in stuff, and in 2013, I did have a bizarre incident with bearded dragons that no one ever got an answer to. We sent animals to 7 or 8 different labs for necropsies and shit. They could find nothing. There was no reason for why those babies were dying. So at this point, it coincided with an unusual event, 23 inches of rain in a single day, which caused a 6-foot deep flood over my entire property. My dragons were living essentially on an island.
Jeez.
And so we think that it may have been some sort of algae bloom, some kind of spores. They could never find anything. But outside of that one single event, one time that lasted for 3 months, I've never had a problem. And the reason is for a couple reasons. One, after being in this for as long as I have and watching person after person have their collections wiped out, seeing shit come in and just kill stuff. 2 things I figured out. One, no matter how healthy your adults are or how healthy you think they might be, more than likely in all of our collections and everybody's collection, there are viruses. Yeah. All of us right now are carrying viruses. Phil more so than anybody because he's the Rona King.
Bingo.
But
I was going to say the same thing.
No, but we all have viruses, right? Most of the time, they don't fuck with you. But if you get stressed, sometimes they can flare up and kick your ass. It's the same thing with all these animals. All of these animals, all of them have some sort of endemic virus. Or something that they can get and plague them. And most of the time, the virus, if you buy babies and you raise them up in your environment and you're not constantly fucking with them and moving them around and stressing them out, you're good. It's every time somebody, just like Paul said, every single time someone that I know has lost a collection. One of two things have happened. They either moved locations, which set their closed colony off and exposed viruses that they didn't realize were there, or they bought adults from other people, which this has happened to me in the past. Like I bought a few years ago, about 10 years ago, I bought a colony of fat-tailed geckos from a very good friend of mine. These geckos were fucking beautiful. There was nothing wrong with them. They were fat, healthy, primed. I bought them. I drove them home. And within 2 or 3 weeks, they started breaking down. And then I realized they had sticktail, which is crypto, and the whole colony crashed. Oh. Now, that wasn't his fault because he had no fucking idea. And for years, these things were perfect. Yeah. And it wasn't my fault because, nobody knew.
It was dormant. And dude, crypto's scarier than ever.
I lost you, Paul.
You got me now?
Oh, yeah. I can't hear him either. Can see him. Can't hear him, though.
You got me?
Yeah, barely. You need to turn it up.
Kind of.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. Something's going on with this microphone that I got. It cuts out. So maybe it's time.
You can't allow yourself to be crippled with your progression by being too scared to bring in new stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because if not, you're going to eventually hit a point where you're dead in the fucking water. Yep. You're going to have to bring in more animals at some point. So you just, the way I've managed to avoid it ever since that last time where that colony of fat-tailed geckos crashed, was the last time. And I mean, I can't really say that because I just recently brought in some adult monitors, but stuff that I keep outside, I'm on a different thing than if you have it indoors, right? Because outside the sun takes care of a lot of that. It neutralizes it.
Sure.
So it's hard for shit to spread in my outdoor setups, right? Whereas indoors, if you're in a closed air circulation like most do, that fucking climate control works against you in that way.
Right.
So you can have a real proliferation of a virus go through there. It's kind of like a hospital, So, but you can avoid that by only bringing in babies, and then raising your own stuff, obviously. But as long as I don't bring adults in, I will never bring adult animals into any of my closed air systems. Period. Nothing. Like the geckos we do, I will not bring adults. If I want to add geckos, I'll buy the captive born ones, preferably the smallest I can get, the freshest, and I'll do the raising myself. That's how I operate. Work that way forever. It's the best way to lower your risk substantially without having to, and none of us have the ability to build a biosecurity system that would be adequate.
Right.
Like all the quarantine and all that shit, that's way beyond almost all of our capabilities.
Yeah, you're talking scrubbing air, stainless steel, plain glass.
Yeah.
You're not, people don't even realize, like, you can't quarantine with wood.
Right.
It don't work, buddy.
Yep.
You can seal it with anything you want. It ain't working.
Yeah. It is a false sense of security.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And it's listen, like we were talking, so Fish Head Diagnostics I'm a little plug for them because I love Pia and Dr. Susan. They do necropsies. They have paramyxo, nido, and now crypto testing. But crypto scares the shit out of me because you can have a positive animal and it'll test negative.
Yeah.
If it's not shedding that at that time, you'll never know.
Yep.
So it's scary to think. And, we think about, like you said, the stress of your animals. How often do you mess with stuff? Like we have my wife's boa is up here. Ron, the first time I met you, we got that snake. So it was a couple years ago and we hardly ever touch her. She will bite the shit out of you now. Like she's just an asshole. But it's because why? It's not a dog. We have dogs. We can pet the dogs, but why do I want to take this snake out and harass the shit out of her? She's gorgeous. She does her thing in her cage. She eats. And, it's the same thing. I don't know if you guys have noticed, I'm watching this Doom Rules boa down here and she's doing she just shed, but she's still like all over the cage, rubbing her face on everything. And It's just weird, like somehow she actually pushed, I use these wedges that you get from Lowe's or Home Depot on these sliding glass doors. They're plastic so that the doors don't open. She actually pushed that wedge out and wedged her door open.
Oh shit.
So yeah, so I have locks for everything. I guess I'm going to have to put the locks on. I was hoping not to have to do that with the non-venomous stuff, but I'd prefer her not to knock a mamba cage off of the shelf.
Yeah.
It might be a little detrimental. So
man.
But these are fun things. These are the things that we do. And if our husbandry, I think, is good enough, then I think I honestly believe that we just barely skate by. That's where I think we're really at. I think, Ron, you have you and Eddie, best advantage in the world to be able to keep all your animals outdoors. And I think that's the biggest benefit anybody could have.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it just, man, they get so much. I mean, we only put the tortoise out there, like we put him out every other day, but you can tell like he's like for a day or two after, he's like bulletproof. Like he thinks he's like King Kong in there, but
why don't you have him outside pretty much all year round?
Well, because the HOA thing, and I'm worried he's gonna dig underneath the fence, and our HOA president just happens to live right next door to us.
Hey.
So, so we bring him out, every other day. He's usually out Saturday and Sunday for the whole day. We'll get him out first thing in the morning, rain, whatever, just put him outside, let him do his thing. And then when it gets dark, we bring him back in. He doesn't dig or anything. He's never dug. He just cruises around the yard. He's killed two big.
What species?
Sulcata.
Oh,
the sulcata. Yeah. He's destroyed two of Anna's aloe vera plants completely. Oh yeah. Just wreck. Aiden comes in. He's like, the aloe vera plant's gone. And I'm like, where'd it go? He's like, I don't know. I walked out there. I'm like, oh yeah, something was eating it. And I look at the tortoise. He's got a big piece of it sticking out. And I was like, yep.
I love that species. I will never keep a sulcata again. They're so destructive. They're the most destructive tortoise. Yeah.
Yes.
I believe they're more destructive than any of the bigger species.
Oh yeah, by far.
Yeah, listen, when we first got him, we got him from Brazil, from Steve Brazil. So we went to the shop. I was going to get one that was this big. So we walked in. I was like, oh my God, he's so nice. And Steve's like, for the same price, I'll give you that one. And my buddy was with me, and he's not a reptile guy. He was like, that one is 10 times bigger for the same price. He's like, get that one. And I'm like, oh no. And Steve's like, you want that one. And I was like, no, I don't know if I want that one. And Steve's got this great, he gets me every time I go there with something.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, I'll take the bigger one. Steve's like, you're not going to be sorry. Just be sure that you pick everything up a little bit and don't get in his way when it's time to eat, because he's pretty food aggressive. So we get him home, and we have these end tables, and that sucker just plows into the end table, and there goes the end table right across the room. He just pushes it wherever he wants, Sees I have a stainless steel kettle, sees his reflection in the kettle, just stops. And I'm watching him like, what the hell is he doing? And just rams that thing. Like, just bam. I'm like, holy shit, he's going to dent it. Like, they're just crazy. Crazy.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Ron, you look tired there, buddy.
Nah, it's been a long fucking day.
I bet.
I'm good. I pounded a coffee before we started this. I'm good.
Nice.
This light is kicking my ass. I can't figure out what the fuck.
It's just your monitor?
Yeah, it's the monitor. I got it.
Is it the brightness?
No, I mean it's not really terribly bright. I have it set. It's just I changed this whole system, so I'll fuck around with it a little more this week.
Yeah, Andrew went yesterday and got a 240 megahertz monitor for gaming.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
It's a big monitor.
Yeah, he's freaking out. He's like, his computer comes tomorrow, so he has to work from home because nobody's going to be here to sign for it. So he told his boss, I gotta work from home. I can't come to work. I got to be able to get my computer. So yeah, he's freaking out. They weren't supposed to ship it until I think October, and they ended up getting it out way early. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, he's super excited. So
we just need Eddie to make the world's first hybrid blue tongue Australian tree frog combo.
That would be weird.
Yeah, I would do it.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like I was saying earlier, I don't know. All this stuff is all just, everybody's just got to kind of calm down and take some common sense and really think things out. It's all, just because you don't like something doesn't mean that it shouldn't be done, or that other people don't do it, or that other people aren't going to like it. I mean, there's lots of shit that I don't like, but I'm not out there,
telling him he can't do it,
bashing it, or gatekeep. I mean, I actually, and to be perfectly honest, the way I look at it is pretty much the entirety of it. Like every single thing that's positive has a negative attached to it. Doesn't matter what it is. I mean, literally everything, right? And everything that's a negative also has a positive attached to it. Like I'm someone who my life, like I've had talks with Eddie, and when we were sitting around and I tell him like stories of shit that happened to me in the past, and the fucking looks on his face are like, holy shit. I'm like, oh yeah, dude, I witnessed a murder, it's no big deal. I saw 4 12-year-olds shoot a guy at point blank range with a 12 gauge, and I'm the one who had to clean up the blood and the skin afterwards. It was a good time. I mean, and then I was in a drive-by where people drove by, tried to kill me, and shot my car off. That was all before I was 18, dude. My whole car, all the windows, everything were blown out. I was laying on the floorboard. My face was bleeding from the shattered glass and
holy crap,
bullet holes in the door. Yeah, when I was a kid, I was involved in shit I shouldn't have been involved in. So when I was 18, I finally got arrested, and that was the best thing that could ever happen to me. But so in a short period from the time I was 16 to 18, a lot of really fucked up shit. I mean, I went through some shit, right? But I look back at that, and every single thing, positive stuff came out of that. Like if the cop hadn't busted me when I did, I went to jail 2 weeks after I turned 18. And I went to jail for trying to steal a fucking a Firebird out of a fucking out of a location. It was in like a place where they impounded cars. The cops impounded cars. Really stupid idea. Okay.
Yeah.
But I got bit by a police dog. All this shit. It was good. Cops with guns in my face. But if they hadn't caught me when they did, and I hadn't gone to jail, and I hadn't got the specific cop that I got, the cop that I got was cool as fuck. Actually, he put me in the police car. He was taking me to jail, and he was talking to me, and we were talking. At one point, he pulled the car over, and I thought, oh fuck. He took me out of the back seat, uncuffed me, and put me in the front seat. And then him and I talked the whole way down. He was cool as fuck. And when I went to because I was like, yeah, man, I'm an asshole. I shouldn't have been doing this. I fessed up to what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And when it came time for my court date, he showed up, but he asked the judge for leniency on me on his behalf. And he gave the judge like a really good recommendation for me. So as a result, I got pretrial intervention, and I avoided getting a felony, which they had me on like 4 or 5 felonies. So, I mean, it was pretty serious. But had that not happened, I would probably have been a completely different person. When that happened, and I went to jail, and I realized I really don't like being in a fucking cage, I completely changed my life at that point. I stopped hanging out with all the people I was hanging out with. I dove head on into the reptile business, which got me to where I am today. So I took all that negative shit that I was doing, and I started channeling it into positive ends. And I started reading a lot of philosophy books and stuff, trying to, Alan Watts and shit like that, Nietzsche, trying to work out my own fucking psychosis and why I was the way I was. But basically it came down to, when I was a little kid, I was really nerdy. I used to sit in school with reptile books or comic books, didn't really talk to anybody, kind of set off to my own. Well, that gave me the attention of the bullies. So I got my ass beat for when I was in like 3rd to 6th. And that actually turned me into a pretty hateful, nasty very aggressive teenager. Like I was a fucking monster. And, but again, you know, witnessing a murder, fucking, which was horrible, fucking, you know, going to jail, doing all the dumb shit that I did, it all had a positive outcome, even though that time period I probably have minor PTSD over it.
Yeah, for sure you did.
Yeah.
So, you know, but it's like that. But anyway, I don't even know where I was going with that. The whole point, though, is that everything has a fucking negative attached to it. Everything has a positive attached to it.
Yeah.
Try to make take advantage of the positive things. Try to limit the negative things. And
I mean, you guys know I'm hugely opinionated, but the last couple months, the last couple months has shown me that I can have an opinion. I mean, everybody's got one. Maybe some of my opinions I need to kind of keep to myself, but it doesn't hurt to share your opinion with people.
No,
it doesn't. And here's the thing. That's what's great about a lot of things that we do. If you don't like something that somebody's doing and you say something, just leave it at that. You know, I mean, I don't like some of these venomous guys, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. It bothers me to no end that they could potentially ruin me having my permit, but I don't really think at this juncture it's going to be them that's going to be. I don't think the free handling guys, the Tyler Nolans and Chandlers, I don't think those guys are going to be the cause of that. It's going to be the Christopher Giffords losing a Cobra for 5 months, you know, or this fake that Cobra that got loose that supposedly got loose in Texas, the forest Cobra, that wasn't real. There's no way. That big a snake, everybody I've talked to, nobody's ever heard of this guy. From what I understood from Cody, that's one of the more rare species of forest cobra. So if somebody was buying one that big, other people would have known that it was available because it's one of the more sought after ones. So it's just, there's way too many odd things that happen with that. It got loose. There was news for a day. It's all gone. Yeah. And it's just another one of those states that has no regulations, that is that HSUSMP looking for a doorway to get the ball rolling. So it's go ahead, Phil.
Well, no, I was just going to say, dude, listen, there's nothing wrong with criticism. I mean, thoughtful criticism, if you get it out there, you give an actual, like, you know, where you explain why you're critical and what it is. I listen to that. I do listen to that. Yeah. Like that I do care about. If somebody comes up and says, you know, oh, you know, if you do this, it's going to have this is going to happen. And they actually give you a good fucking reason, like, and they have a thoughtful thing. I'll listen to it. I won't always follow it, but I will at least listen to it because I know that's how you make progress. Right. So you got to have dissenting voices. Like that's absolute.
But you know, I mean that I think the thing is though that Ron, that takes like a certain level of like self-reflection and ego checking. You know, I mean, and I agree. You know, I inevitably. I mean, I can't tell. I mean, I'm sure this has happened to all of you. It's because it's really common. We all do it, but. You know, I got hammered at one point in one of the Euro community groups because I called out this person who was basically just spouting bullshit. And, you know, I don't necessarily need to get into the nitty gritty details, but they claimed to have performed some study at home with their own animals where they drew blood and all this stuff. And I'm like, bro, you are not a lab. You're not like you are not a laboratory. You didn't do it across hundreds of animals across, you know, more than one species. You claimed that you were looking at blood sugar, but were you using a blood sugar monitor that was tuned for fucking doing it to an animal? Yeah, exactly. For people, you were just looking at blood sugar, but when you're feeding this particular thing in question, which was bee pollen, like you're feeding something that has pesticides and variable content based on region where you get it from because it's bee pollen. Like the point is I said, look, it's great that you went out there and decided to take science into your own hands and try to get some information, but to make a claim based on that information and now recommend that other people do X, Y, or Z because of that is pure, like you would literally get arrested for malpractice in the United States of America. Yeah. That's fucked, dude. You can't do that. And I can't tell you, there were several people who were calling me the asshole. They were like, you're just fucking jealous, bro, because you didn't do it. I'm like, no, I'm glad I didn't do it. Like, you don't understand. Right. I don't want anything to do with this, you know? But like you guys, I can count dozens and dozens of examples of when people who I respect, who are more experienced than me, or people who I didn't even know, who articulated a well thought out rationale for saying, hey, you might want to reconsider that. Right. And I was like, hey, shit, you know what? That's a damn good point. I'm going to take that into consideration. But that's because I fucking get my ass kicked every day by people, like grown ass humans who literally try to choke me unconscious against my will. So someone telling me that I was wrong online is really not a big deal. Like, it's not that big. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and listen, it's you just said it, the gut check, the ego, the macho bullshit, you know, is where people, that's where I think the fault is. And I went and did my internship, and you can ask anybody that's worked with me. There were times where, you know, obviously everybody wants to handle the coolest animals, right? People come over, Ron, when you had the croc monitors and people came over, that was probably the first thing. Oh, I want to check them out. So when I started at Cody's, I didn't run in the house and say, let me handle that 11-foot black mamba over there. You know, it was, hey, we're going to clean the baby black mambas, and you're just going to stand back and watch and pick their shit up, clean their bowl, and I'll put them. Yeah. And then it was, hey, you're going to work these smaller species. And as I learned all this stuff, I thought, you know, this makes perfect sense. Like, I would go over there, get there at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'd clean 30 or 40 cages, and my mind is shot. And I'm getting like, I didn't handle any of the bothrops, the big bothrop species, until I was there for over a year, because it was like, oh, by the time I was getting to them, my brain's shot. I'm ready to stop. I'm not into this now. And I'm not going to pull out this 7-foot snake that is like legitimately every time you open the door shoots out of the cage 5 feet. And if you're not on your game, it's going to try to kill you. So I look at that as a lot of people, like Cody would always tell me, there's not very many people that would admit that this is my breaking point. I'm done right here. I'm going to stop and I'll work that another time, you know? So there's a lot that comes from being modest in what we do. And that's one of the reasons I love Ron, and meeting Eddie is the same way. And you feel everybody's so mellow, and it's not like, oh, I did this. No, it's not about that. It's about helping the community and, you know, getting more better information out there. I almost say gooder.
Well, I mean, the ego thing, it can be a mind fuck.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. When I was younger, you know, I made a name in this business when I was pretty young. I mean, I've essentially grown up in this business. Like, I was like 18 when I started. So by the time I was in my 20s, I had already made a pretty good name for myself around the United States and even outside into Europe and stuff. So when you're in your 20s, and, you know, you go to shows and people are telling you, oh, you're a fucking legend, and they're patting you on the back and trying to buy you drinks and acting weird, you know, very fanboyish about it. Fucking, it goes right to your fucking head when you're that age. And it did for a long time. I mean, for like, that was part of the reason my shit crashed in 2004. That was basically a monument to fucking hubris, my own, you know, stupidity. So again, that was a terrible thing to happen. I mean, I found myself on the bathroom floor with a 12 gauge. I was going to fucking check out for good then. Because I felt like I had lost everything that I worked for. I was losing my house. Everything was collapsing. I got hit by 2 hurricanes. And it was just it was a really bad time. However, again, I pulled myself out of that shit, and I am way stronger today because of having to go through that. But it also, that pounded into my head that you aren't shit. You think you're shit, but you're not shit. And maybe you ought to fucking back the fuck up and start, you know, really working it like I did when I was younger, because at that point I thought, oh, I can just fucking phone it in and I'll be fine, which is essentially what I was doing. I was phoning it in. I thought I didn't really have to work anymore. I thought, oh, no matter what I produce, I'm going to sell it all. I'm going to, I'll be able to pay for all this shit, all this debt that I'd racked up and everything. That ain't the truth at all. So that allowed me to do a lot of soul searching. And then, I'm not going to lie, I've read a lot of fucking psychology books and shit since that time. I got into that because I was trying to analyze myself. And I've spent a lot of time actually doing that. And that's how I've been able to.
He's got a couch. He's got a couch in his bedroom with a chair next to it. He lays down, answers the question, runs over, sits back down in the chair.
Right. No, I mean, you can do that. I mean, I just see, the main reason that I dropped out of school is I'm just not somebody that does well having somebody else over top of me kind of, telling me. I do better when I get the books and I just sit down and do it myself. At my own pace. For whatever reason, I'm completely an autodidact. I'm completely self-taught, right? On everything. So, I mean,
some people are like that, man. Some people learn like that. I just, I don't test well. So
for my case, that was, and I recognized it at pretty young, I mean, I was able to, I was always really good in school, but I always felt like super stressed, and it was just I have like no good memories of school. Like I fucking hated every minute of it. So but anyway, so the ego thing in this business, it's kind of a fan business, I mean, the industry is like that. You do something that's notable, people, put that on you, and it's really cool. And I really do fucking appreciate every single nice thing everybody's ever said about me. If it wasn't for the community, I'd be fucking shit. And those people, I mean, I owe it something to everybody in that regard. And that's why I try to put out all the information that I can. I'm not giving any recommendation. I'm just telling you, hey, this is what I think. This is what I do. If it works, if you can take something that comes out of my mouth and make it work for you, then fucking do it. That's what I would say. Right. But,
Eddie, you're very quiet.
Oh no, I 100% agree with him. So
Eddie is just very quiet.
That's because that's all ego, man. That dude has his ego could fill this whole screen.
Got him.
No, but anyway, my point anyway was that it's very easy for somebody to get a fucking huge head based on what other people are saying. And I mean, it is partly their fault, but it is also just kind of the way it is. And if they're not somebody that's going to go back and do a little bit of soul searching or a lot of fucking soul searching, then they're going to continue to get worse and worse. And I'm sure we can all think of a few instances of that. So,
100%. 100%.
Look at Phil's fucking ego. I mean, he's got such ego. He's got one fucking ear off. He's only listening in one ear.
No, dude, it's the headphones. They literally hurt my ears. Like
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
It's right. Listen, it's not the headphones. It's the headlocks.
Yo.
A second ago, Phil put a finger up and then put a second one. I went, whoa, there the toes are.
There you go. There's my jacket.
Look at that. I was looking at that. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. They get busted over and over. That's for sure. Yeah.
Hell no.
Hey,
hell no.
That's what happens.
Ed's a mess, man. That guy, he's got all these frogs going. He's got the cone. It's all kind of fucking
unreal.
Yeah, I know. He's
cool shit.
He's that guy that sits quietly in the background, doesn't say much, toiling away.
Doing the shit.
He comes out of left field, and you're like, what the fuck?
I'll have people message me all the time, and I agree with Ron. People message me about some of the obscure stuff that I've done, and I always tell them, I never say, hey, you have to do this. You've got to do this.
Yeah.
This is what I did. Right away, I tell them, this is what I did. Hopefully, this works for you.
Yeah.
I'll give them some advice that I think will help, but I never tell them, hey, I did this. It worked for me. You do it the same way. You're not going to hear that from me.
So remember yesterday's messages, we were going back and forth about projects and things that worked. And I can look back and we did bearded dragons, leopard geckos, crested geckos, all these very non-obscure things, everything that everybody has. And when I got that pair of retics, I had 3 or 4 people tell me, why would you buy a het purple golden child and a purple male? What do you think you're going to accomplish with that? And I said, it's my first pair of retics. They probably won't ever breed for me. That's my luck. And this is what I'm going to do. And I have always done the same thing. When I had ball pythons and bred ball pythons, I fed once a week on the same day. I had the nerdy notebook. I would weigh everybody once a month. I listened. I had all these notebooks and I would be looking at everything. And with the retics, I said, I'm not going to keep a notebook or anything, but Stephen Tillis had given me their feed cards. So I was just kind of filling their feed cards out because they were already there. And I get these snakes home and the male never ate. And Stephen told me, hey, if you have snakes that don't eat, the male retic will eat anything. And that snake for 6 months didn't touch any. I tried to feed him 100 times. And then one day I went to feed the female and she didn't eat. And I'm like, that's weird. So I text Steven. I'm like, yeah, the female just refused food. He's like, dude, do me a favor. Just throw the male in and see what happens. Now you hear all these horror stories. We were at Nerd, with Jeremy. He gave us, or not Jeremy, but Rob gave us a tour. We talked about retics and breeding and how dangerous it is. So now, I've got Andrew in there with a snake hook. I've got a hook. I'm like ready to die. Like literally, I'm like, hey, if this happens, I'm just going to jump in and grab the snakes and pull them apart. It's going to be great. So we put the male in, and there was a bunch of twitching, and then nothing. And they went to separate ends of the cage, and I was like, all right. So we went out in the living room. 20 minutes later, they were locked up. And they proceeded to do that for a month. I separated them back out. The male went right back on food, ate everything that went in there. I produced a clutch. I made shitload of money on those. We did very well. We paid back our investment. We paid off all the food bills for them. That was great.
Nice.
And I think about that now because I did everything a certain way. I fed every week. I did that. And then I listened to a podcast and somebody talking about, I've got retics and berms, and you know what? I feed them like once a month. Sometimes I won't even feed them, and they breed for me all the time. And I was like, this sounds like probably right. Like in the wild, they don't have somebody handing them a rat every week. So I'm going to do that. I didn't produce any more retics after that. So let's just say that sometimes we're better off not, like I way overthink that. I way overthink. And the problem was I went all in at that point. I said I was only going to keep a pair. I ended up with, I think, 4 12-foot plus females. We had a pair of berms. We had three or four holdbacks that were all 7 or 8 feet females. We had 3 or 4 males. We said, we produced this clutch. It's awesome. We're going to get more. And it, sometimes we overthink and listen to what other people have to say instead of just doing, like Eddie said, doing what works for him might not work for somebody in New York. The weather's different, the humidity, same thing with you, Philip. You're in Colorado. It might be way different for us down here. Totally. So, I think being an open book and trying to help people the best that we can is all we can do. But I think people on the listening end also need to understand that not everything is the gospel or 100% going to work this way.
And to put it into more perspective, keep in mind, Ron lives less than 20 minutes away from me. There's things that he does in his yard I would struggle with in my yard.
Right.
So,
and probably vice versa.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables. And another thing that you were saying, record keeping and this and that. When I started breeding animals in like 2007, I documented everything. I used to document feeding. I documented when eggs were laid. I would weigh animals. I would write on the eggs of species. 2021, I just throw animals together. They breed. I forget feeding. Obviously, with the snakes, there was never a feeding show with snakes. Whenever I felt like feeding them, never starving them, obviously. Eggs in the incubator. I throw eggs in the incubator. I have it right there. There's probably animals in there right now hatching. I'll check it tonight. But
sure.
I don't write down on the calendar when they were laid. I just check it periodically. And you know what? When I checked everything and I weighed everything, I wasn't doing that great. I said it, forget it. Things hatch. Things look great.
Yeah. I mean, there's that saying, right? A mind is like a parachute. It only works if it's open. You know what I'm saying? But it works, you know, like it works in multiple directions too. It's like, I like the first thing I ask people when they tell me like, oh, what's going on with my Euros? I always ask them like, do you keep them together? And they're like, oh yeah, no, I have, they've been together for years. I'm like, split them up, you know? Cause like, I mean, I don't mean to be dogmatic about it, because I know I like harp on that, but that's because everyone does it the opposite way. Everyone keeps them together all the time. And I'm like, dude, just split them for a year. Just split them up. And people will be like, no, they're great together. And I'm like, well, they're clearly not doing great together because they're not breeding, or their eggs aren't hatching, or your female's having problems or something. Like, just split them up for a little while. You know what I mean? And nobody wants to do it because, well, then you can't keep as many animals. And how are they supposed to breed? Because then if you don't keep them together, how are they ever going to breed? It's like, just put them together in the spring, dude. It's like, you don't have to do it. I mean, Eddie, dude, I relate to what you just said so hard. Cause like for the first several years of breeding the Euros, like everything was written down. Like I wrote down when stuff mated, when they laid eggs, how many eggs were laid, how many were duds, literally every little thing. This year and last year, I got a note card where I scribble it. I'll scribble something down, but it was like so meticulous. I wanted to know every little thing, but then it's not that important to know every little thing for me anyway. You know, like I know other guys who will do it a different way. They want, you know, they've got to know every little thing about exactly when stuff did what and why, and it just got to, you know, it just gets to a point where you're, like I said this recently also in another podcast I did with another friend of mine, where I was like, dude, the way I do things now is so different from the way I did things 8 or 9 years ago. And I'm hopeful that in another 10 years time, I can say the same thing, or at least within reason, you know, like I don't always, everything changes, your needs change all the time. And if you're truly being responsive rather to your animals, their needs are going to change all the time. And thus your methods should change all the time, because if you're listening to them, they're going to tell you what to do, you know? And
100%.
Yeah. I mean, I've always kept very meticulous notes on everything. That's a lie. I've never actually kept a single note, not in the entire time. I drive Heather crazy because she is a note keeper, right? And she'll come out like, you know, and like she doesn't have much interaction with the anoles right now because she's very busy with the dragons and the skinks and the ackies and stuff. But she'll come out to check to see what I'm doing with the anoles, and then she's like, okay, why is this bank of cages? So there'll be like 5 cages, right? And it'll be like a podior, and then there's a Ludogalaris, and then there's another podior, and then there's she's like, well, why don't we have all of them together? And I'm like, well, that's just kind of fucking where they wound up, but I know where everything is, so don't worry. But that's how I operate in kind of a chaotic fashion. But most of the reason that is that way, though, is because it's constantly fucking evolving. It's constantly changing. I don't live by any hard, fast rules whatsoever. Right. I got those out of my skull a while ago when I realized that I was actually hindering myself by trying to adhere to certain, like, just like you said, it's a constant evolution. Things should constantly be progressing. And if they're not progressing forward and you're going backwards, then you need to change your fucking approach, no matter what you may have read or think or thought, you know,
or what somebody told you.
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things you have to think.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't want to say this as if like I'm doing it right. I mean, I think part of what makes it easier for me anyway, to be willing to make changes is again, when you come from a submission grappling circumstance, if you try to do the same thing, you are literally going to get tapped out the same way every single time, like, and then the same thing. There was an expression in the art world, because I used to do concept art for games and film and stuff, and it's all illustration, right? So like when the expression in that industry is, if there's something that you're making that you really, really love, you might want to try something else, because your intuitions about what is good and what is bad artistically is usually they're not very well refined. And what you like, most of the people might not like either. So it's like it like beats into you a willingness to be open to like trying something different. I mean, I every year I try to put Euros together to see if they'll survive together. Every time, every fucking year. Maybe this year I'll figure it out. I don't know, because there's clearly some way to do it. I mean, it's got to be possible. I just don't know what it is. But I don't say like it's because Euros can never be housed together. It's just because I'm not good at setting them up so they like being together. It's like it's the way you structure your language around what you're doing is really important too. It like self-talk matters.
Yeah. It's funny because when we talk about all these things that we're doing, and you guys are breeding stuff. I'm not breeding anything here, so it doesn't matter. But I have two very small Insularis, which are the Komodo Island pit vipers, and I have tried cutting the pinky head off and beating the shit out of the snake with the pinky head, because that's what everybody says. This is how you get them. You just poke them and they just get pissed and they're biting it, and then they shoot out of the box and they're flying all over the place. So I went out, and I'm not going to lie, I'm going to tell the story from the beginning, because Friday I got home. I was still in my work clothes. It was hot as fuck out. And I went out in the backyard and I see an anole, and I'm like, I'm going to catch this anole. After about 12 seconds, I thought my heart was going to explode. I had sweat pouring off of me, and I looked around and I thought, damn, I'm glad my yard's fenced in, because nobody saw that. That's embarrassing. Nice. And needless to say, the anole is gone. He's probably 10 feet from me, staring at me going, wow, fat fuck.
Big loser.
So somebody told me, put a spotlight on and go out at night and just pick them up. And I'm like, there's no way. So I walk out in the backyard. I put the headlamp on, and I walk out in the backyard, and I look, and there's one sitting on the hose, and it's facing the opposite direction. And it turns around and looks right at me. And I reach down and just pick it up like, wow. Yeah. How much? But now this is where everybody's going to freak out, because I threw that anole in with the Insularis and 15 minutes gone.
Yeah, perfect. Like lizard eaters.
Oh, yeah. So as long as I can get some size on them, then I can switch them over to, but people are going to say, oh, you just caught a lizard from your yard. Your snake's got AIDS.
I know.
Really?
Dude, we intentionally set up our outdoor enclosures so that our animals have get wild caught bugs.
Yeah.
Like our blue tongues eat wild caught ground roaches all the time.
Cool.
I set it up in a way that the roaches could get into the enclosure, and then the blue tongues eat the roaches. So I don't even have to feed them. And I could see there's an argument to be made if you're in like, like a community where they do a lot of herbicide, a lot of spraying.
Yeah.
Like that. But where I'm at, we're on 5 acres. There's nobody spraying anything out here. And, and I've always allowed, we put 1/2-inch wires so the anoles can get in. So, the medium-sized lizards, they get a lot of wild anoles. That's good for them.
Yeah.
That's a net positive. I've never had a parasite issue caused by them. Again, parasites. Yeah, they can get parasites. They can get parasites from crickets. Crickets are fucking disgusting.
Yeah, crickets are
commercial
horrible.
Crickets are disgusting. But your animals, for the most part, are going to eat them and be unfazed by that. It's only when your animal gets stressed that the parasites really can get in there and cause a problem. Otherwise, it seems like it's kind of a negligible or non-issue.
Yeah.
I have a small, so my shop has like the main room, and then there's a small room that was intended to be an office that I just use as like a baby room. And I keep the anoles in there because it's a little cooler. And I leave the door open a lot, the front door open all the time, just to let airflow through. And I get yellow jackets that fly into the shop constantly. They just like fly in.
Oh, fuck that.
They smell, well, I've gotten pretty Miyagi with catching them with tongs, because what they do, they fly in and you know, they come in because they can smell, they smell the food I'm chopping up, or something, you know, they just smell stuff.
Yeah.
But what they inevitably do is they go and they beeline and they hit the UV strips that I have over the baby cages. And so what I do is, while they're stuck there, I just nag them with the tweezers and I throw them in with all the anoles and they eat them. They just eat the shit out of all of them.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's cool. It's real cool.
Yeah, I don't, those wasps and hornets and
oh yeah.
Here, I got one. So I keep, so obviously with my Australian water dragons, I have 2 separate groups of them. And same situation as Ron. The mesh, the anoles can go through, and what they usually do, which is really interesting, is the water dragons will sit at the top. They'll watch the anoles go through the cage. They'll watch them go to the food bowl, eat the crickets, the mealworms, the discoid roaches, and then the water dragons attack. And I sat there watching it one time, because right now in my yard, the anoles are trained. Like, they are not afraid of me. They look at me as a food source now, because, you know, I'm throwing bugs everywhere. So they are kind of like excited when they see me. So they sit there, they wait for the food bowl to get full up. They run inside the cage, and I'm watching this water dragon just sit there, and it's just watching it. And I'm like, you'd think it'd get excited for the food I'm throwing in there. It's watching the anole the whole time. You know, as soon as the anole's done eating, it climbs up the cork bark, boom, gets eaten by one of the males.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
And same
same
thing when I had basilisks outside, same situation.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
So,
do you know that I've raised like tens of thousands of bearded dragons, hundreds of cyclura, spiny tails, and to this day, I have never gone to the grocery store and bought greens for them or vegetables. They've been raised 100% on the weeds that grow on the property, the vines, the weeds, the natural plants, native plants. And I got Heather addicted to it now. And now that she's tried it out, she was like, the stuff looks way better on this. Because you have to do some research to figure out what are, you know, good food sources, right? So you can't, and you need to do moderation, you know, like we don't feed the same weeds over and over again. We kind of rotate about 5 or 6 different species. And there's a thing we have here called a Circe vine that everything loves. But we do not buy we do not go to the grocery store and buy any greens at all for any of the herbivores. They get all yard weeds. You just walk outside when they need to be fed, pull them out of the ground, throw them in there.
You guys are killing me, dude.
Much better. That's why I told you need if you can get some property, you only need it. I've been doing this on an acre. So you only need an acre, and you just need it to be like unfucking manicured, you know, just like natural land. That will have a variety, no matter where you're at, it will have a variety of plants that are absolutely usable, and in most cases going to be far superior to the monoculture.
Listen, there's tons of stuff around Kissimmee St. Cloud area.
Yeah.
Tons.
Well,
just saying.
Well, listen,
I don't think for euros I would come here.
No. The first thing I'll say is I do already do tons of foraging for the euros during the warm season. I really do. I mean, my mother has a massive backyard, and I pester her constantly to grow hollyhock and nasturtium and all this stuff that I can pick and feed the euros that they love, because there's also plenty of things that they can eat that they don't want anything to do with. So it's like there is a balance to be had there. But more specifically about the acre, I'd love to buy an acre if the damn market in Colorado would chill.
You just have to wait, dude. That's gonna happen.
As soon as it's gonna change, it's gonna happen, because I can't wait for that, because I can't wait. Because I'll tell you guys what I want to do, which is when I get a space, when I can get land and I can buy a home here, one of the first things I want to do is I want to buy like three of those, like those temporary
handy houses.
Is that is
that what they're called? Yeah, handy house.
The ones that they make for like, when they're doing construction on a spot and they put like a temporary thing for the foreman.
Oh, like a
trailer.
Yeah, like
portable.
I basically want to get 3 of those, and I want to put them in a row, and then I want to cut a hole on both sides of it,
so the animals can go in and out.
Go out in. Exactly. Yeah, man, that's what I want to do, and and it would make things so damn nice here. I have lots of plans and lots of whatever, but just got to wait for the right time and the right capital, but you guys can't tell, you guys are all down there like, oh, my food just crawls into the cages when I'm not, Oh, I just put everything in the backyard and I don't have to light anything and ooh la la.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I only give my animals, store-bought food when food in the house, no one wants to eat it. So like bananas go bad.
Yeah.
Just veggies go bad. I get excited. It goes to my animals. But for me, I got lucky. I mean, the guy who had the house before me had hibiscus everywhere.
Oh,
he had
sick,
papaya.
dude.
He had papaya. He had banana.
That's awesome.
Mango, cherries. The only thing I had to bring, the only thing I brought to the house was cactus. Yeah. I planted it. Well, obviously the animals, but I did a lot of like the spineless cactus for the tortoises, and then seasonally I get clover. So once it starts getting cooler, I get a whole thing of clover.
Oh, clover's sick. Yeah, that's good shit.
So no, I got lucky.
Yeah.
The hollyhock's a winner, man, because hollyhock it grows here in Colorado, grows super tall, and it's a super prolific flowering plant. And the Euros, they don't care for the leaves as much and the bulbs, but they'll eat the petals, and they go nuts for the petals. And so it's what is it called? Perennial, where it just keeps coming back. Is that
annual? Is it perennial?
I don't know.
That was annual.
I couldn't tell you, but whatever.
We know what you're talking about.
It keeps coming back, and so every spring it'll get huge. And so at my mom's house, like literally the front yard and the backyard there's like 30 hollyhock plants that come back every year, and she doesn't trim them down or anything like that. Nice. She just lets them go, and I go over there like every other morning, and I'll pick like literally 1 million hollyhock, and I'll just go walk by the cages, and I'll pluck like 10 blooms into every cage, and that'll be enough food for a couple of months. And between that and dandelion and like wild alfalfa and stuff, like I can get usually 3-4 months of not buying any food, but it's just not consistent enough here. It gets too cold too fast and too hot too fast. And it's not easy, but once I have property, then we'll talk about it.
And you don't even need that much. I mean, I'm only on an acre, and it's more than enough for me.
Bro, I don't know. Those Euros eat. No. I'm just kidding. I'm sure you're right. I know. I mean, I believe you guys. I just gotta.
Yeah, because I've gone to places where they have several acres, and I'm just like, you never realize how big a property is until you actually are there.
Sure.
So.
I mean, we're on 5 acres.
Ron's place,
I probably don't use more than an acre, if that.
That's amazing.
That's my example. I will never get acres because of that.
Yeah,
but I have to fucking mow the other 4.
And that's another reason I don't do
that. That's
nice. Nice.
That's great.
That's my favorite thing.
You like mowing your grass, huh?
Oh, as soon as you're done right now with the rain.
Oh,
you mow it, and then like 5 days later, it's fucking too tall again, and I do it only when I can't see through it anymore, and I have to. then I'll go out there and mow. But
was that from Jurassic Park? Was it not into the long grass?
Yeah, I pay somebody $80 a month, and he just comes whenever he comes. So I ain't doing that shit, and I'm not fighting with my kids to do it anymore either.
Yeah,
that gets
I
old.
do the same.
That's crazy.
Fun. And listen, the guy that comes and does my lawn, his name is Jose, and he is fantastic. He is. Listen, he's the first one. We put the fence in. He flew by the fence on the outside, and I was like, "Oh shit, he's here." The tortoise is outside. I opened up the back door. He comes in. He's like, "Hey, turtle. And I'm like, tortoise. And he's like, is that yours? And I'm like, yep. He's like, oh, okay, I won't run it over. I'm like, I hope not. But, you know, I love the guy. He's awesome. He's awesome. So, all right, guys. Gentlemen. Yeah. I'm going to get ready for bed here. And me and Anna are going to Siesta Keys this weekend. So
nice.
Yeah. Get away for a day or two. And hopefully the kids don't pull any shenanigans while we're gone and we don't hear from them.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'll be we covered like this weekend.
We covered what, like we covered like 20 topics probably.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. It's been almost 3 hours. Yeah, almost 3 hours. Yep. Yeah, people are gonna love this.
I'm sure my
Ron's like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I don't even remember whatever dumb shit that I said, so let me just out with it.
Yeah. For anybody that gets upset and butthurt, there's that guy right there. He doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Again, we need a name for this thing. So come up with a name.
Let's work on it.
That's a great idea.
All right. Well, hold on one second, guys. I'm going to stop the recording. We are out of here. No, don't do that. Wait, I hit the wrong button. Now we're out of here.